All right. So it has been a while since I've interviewed someone, and it's also been a while since I've interviewed anyone in person, which would be like 2 years ago from Just Be with Scotty G for all the listeners out there and viewers if you're watching on YouTube. Um, and if you are watching on YouTube, you'll notice I'm doing an in person interview. Ooh, how about we'll cover just a little for the degree so people can see.
I'll do it too.
And so yeah, I'm out here representing Just Be with Scotty G for the viewers. Be authentic, they'll adjust, and I figured this was appropriate as I have my first in-person interview in my hometown on my turf. And since I don't have a studio, my dad was gracious enough to loan us his place, and we got this nice little four top. So we're trying out something new, and I'm super stoked about it. Um, I have to get used to not necessarily looking at the camera. Um, so yeah, it's a little different the in person. Here on the Men of the House podcast, I have Daniel Mondragon.
There you go. Mondragon, Mondragon, however you
Yeah,
say it.
so he is a gentleman I met at a men's group, a LifeWave event, men's group, where, I think I mentioned previously before in some other episodes that my wife was interested in the LifeWave X39 patch. And for anyone else, I believe I mentioned that I interviewed Darlene Green. You can go into Apple and or Buzzsprouts, wherever you get your podcasts, and just type in Darlene Green and Richard Kraft, and that interview will come up, and that'll explain a little bit about the X39. That was a couple hours long, and so I was exposed to that in 2024 and kind of let that settle. I didn't really pursue it. And then my wife comes home one day and is like, hey, babe, there's these patches and they're supposed to work on stem cells. And I go, is it the X39? And she's like, yeah. And I go, hey, babe, I actually interviewed a lady a couple of years ago regarding these patches. And well, my wife doesn't normally listen to my podcast.
Mm.
She did listen to that one because she was interested in it. And so I figured if my wife was going to be a part of this and she wants to do the business side of it, um, I would support her, just like I do with her other business and stuff. We're trying to build something together. And as we did with Buck, and everybody who's listened to the podcast before knows about Buck. But yeah, so she comes home with the LifeWave things, and I'm like, okay. I go to a couple of events or, you know, things at Robin and Steve's house and introductions. And then, of course, Steve and Joe hosted a men's event. And I knew I wanted to go, but we were like teeter tottering because the next day we were going out of town for um, my brother in law's 40th birthday. And we'd been traveling a lot and just came back the week before. But my thing in the self-improvement area, the men of the house, having a accountability group and all that, is connecting with other high value men. And so this was the perfect opportunity to connect with other high value men, people going in the same direction, people who want to better themselves. And I just happened to sit at a table across from Daniel. And that's kind of how we met over barbecue and LifeWave. And Daniel asked me, if we could have some coffee and talk about podcasting, which we did earlier in the week. And I want to get to know more about Daniel. And it just so happened to be he was free and we could do this in person podcast. And I'm grateful and excited. So, everyone, welcome, Daniel. How's it going?
It's going great. It was a pleasure to meet you the first time, by the
Yeah.
way. I made it out there because I had a mutual connection with Joe, as you mentioned as well. So I made it out there, and I feel like we had a great connection. So that's how I received your number. So we ended up meeting up, and now we're here. But
Yeah. You met a jaw winker too. Remember the eye thing when I eat?
yes, yeah, yes, that was new.
Yeah. First
My
time?
first time. Yes,
Yeah. So, have you ever been
this,
on a podcast?
this is my first time on a podcast. Yeah.
Well, I hope you enjoy it. It's just, it's a conversation. And I like to say, like on my Unfiltered Fridays, this has the potential to reach uh, higher than any skyscraper or, conversations that are deeper than the corner office or water cooler talk. So we like to go deep here, but we also like to have fun. But, it's really about, like I said, the whole idea, the men of the house is sitting at the Waffle House going, what's the guy to the right of me? What's their story? What's their story? So I'm here to find out your story. So we always, as any listener knows, I like to start from the beginning. Where were you born? Where'd you grow up? And kind of what was that like?
Sure. So I was born in Charlotte, North
Mm-hmm.
Carolina. I was only there for I think the first 2 years, not year of my
Mm-hmm.
life. Then we moved over to Wilson. Most people probably never heard of Wilson before, small town. But I grew up there. It was, I guess you can call it, as they call it here, ghetto,
Yeah.
or
Good.
the hood. There you go. So it wasn't the best of environment. So I grew up there, and it was, I would say it was a blessing. It was a blessing not having much growing up. It's a you kind of seen not having to now kind of getting used to now having a bit more, but just also the mind switch when we were um, from where I came from to where it is now. It's a blessing to be there to experience that because if you don't know really what lack is, you'll never be grateful. That's what I think. You never be grateful for what you could receive
Yeah.
in the
Without
future.
well, without darkness, light means nothing.
I agree. Yeah.
Now, if you don't mind me asking, what's your ethnicity?
I'm Mexican.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm born in the US. My parents were born in Mexico, so we're Latino.
Yeah.
Latino. Parents Mexican from Michoacan. Yeah, but
And
that's where she.
we share that. Although my mom married a white man. Um,
There you go.
hence the last name, but I always say the problem with that is that, you know, you're 24, right?
24.
24, I'm 49. So some of the biggest differences is, when my mom and them moved here from San Antonio, um, it was more about assimilation. And so they didn't want to stick out. They didn't want to be different. It was about trying to blend in. And therefore, my mom and grandma and that side of the family spoke Spanish inside the house, but they never made an effort to teach me Spanish. And, because it was more about like, I guess probably like your parents probably too. It's like hey, we're from Mexico, but we're having our child. He's going to be a resident, and we
Sure.
want him to be American and the American dream and be like an American. And so I never learned Spanish. And my mom worked as an interpreter forever at the hospital. And
Never taught you.
no, and I always say like, hey,
Sure.
I got gypped. I'm like, who, because my
Yeah.
joke is, who knew that Mexicans would be so popular in the U.S.
Yeah.
2025, or, all these years, how they provided the labor and whatnot.
Yeah.
But, culturally, it also makes a difference in family dynamics. how we're raised because, I've interviewed other Latinos and we talk about um, how they show love is different. Or, you know, your name is probably your worst feature in Spanish, and then they pick that out, and that's how, whether it's gordo or flaco
Mhm.
or, whatever it is, but it's different. And, similarly, I interviewed a family therapist not too long ago who grew up in El Paso, but some of her best friends were Latino, and that's what kind of pushed her into um, doing family therapy because when she would go to their house and see how they interacted versus when she came back home and realized how her family interacted and you know the difference of also we would always say white folks they stick their parents in the nursing home when it's time to age, and Latinos oftentimes we move in with grandma or grandma moves in with us and
Sure.
we take care of each other. And I love it. You got to make sure it's recording. Sometimes I always do. But you know like I was telling you earlier, we have many generations in under the one roof. um, and I enjoy it, but some people think of it and look at it different if they're from a different culture or maybe they don't know. But I know like in Asian culture and Latino culture, often you'll see multi generations within the same household. But so what was it like growing up? Like what were you said your parents are from Mexico. How did they assimilate, or did they teach you Spanish? Did they
Sure, yeah. So I do speak Spanish. All of us do, except for the youngest one. So it's five of us,
Oh, where?
four boys, one girl. So
And where are you?
I'm second oldest. So we all speak Spanish except for the last one. And the reason that is because my dad only speaks Spanish. So he doesn't speak full English. He's learning now, but he never spoke English growing up. So my parents would communicate in Spanish. Therefore, we had to learn it. So it was something that was always spoken in the home. We learned English because of the school, obviously,
Right.
but it was definitely taught, definitely something that our parents wanted us to learn. So we all learned it.
What else? What kind of expectations did they have, like for the boys in the family?
Sure, I'll tell this to everybody, but me and my older brother, we kind of raised the younger ones.
Mhm.
And parents were always working; they were always, providing and stuff like that. Both of them. My mom as well, always worked since I can remember. I think she still does to this day. I know she does to this day.
Yeah.
She went back. She owned a restaurant for a little while, so she was business minded. Um, she's done some direct sales as well, so she's
Mhm.
always been driven, right? A hustler. There you go. So. But yes, for us, it was always we need to take care of the younger ones. So I grew up pretty fast, and that's what I even tell my wife today. Is like, well, not today, but I used to tell her like, I just feel like we grew up very fast in our household, is because for that reason we had three younger ones that we took care of, kind of looked
Yeah.
after when parents were gone and stuff, and they were gone pretty often. So that's how I was growing up. I was more of the kid in the background, more of
Mhm.
the kid who was just there. So I fell in love with the sport, soccer, as I told you before. And that's where that came because I was just always in the background. That's what it felt like as being the second oldest, always having to take care of them. And then my brother, me and him were best friends, we were tight. And then he ended up getting into a relationship for 5 years. And that's when I found the love for soccer. I was young, I was like eight, 7 or 8. That's when I started and fell in love with it because I feel like I lost that relationship after he got into that relationship. It was his first relationship, so I understood afterwards, right? But
Which older is
he's 27 now. I'm 24, so
he?
about 3 years.
Yeah, so that would make difference like when he started getting in the relationship like 11, 11 or 12 and maybe like kids who date in junior high or high school and become high school sweethearts and stuff. I think I want to say my mother and father-in-law started in high school, and
Wow.
my father-in-law, I think he moved to Texas. he was going to Florida or Texas, ended up in Texas, but then like the day she graduated, I think he went back, they got married and moved back, and they've been together ever since.
Wow.
And so that's kind of what I was thinking of the relation. You were like 5 years. I'm like, wow, that is a long time.
Yep. Did
But
it for a while.
it does that it makes sense that you and him being tight, because of course men, we know, as we get in our own relationships and or marriage, your friends give you shit. They're like, hey, now you're not going to see us anymore, and now you're not going to hang out, or you're whatever whipped, and you don't hang out anymore. And
Yeah.
so you
It's a
found soccer.
Yeah, at that age, I didn't really understand. I was
Hmm.
still young. I was just a boy, so I didn't understand that he was. I didn't even understand it. I just felt like,
Right.
it just felt like he just kind of said. That's how it felt at the moment. So then I found the sport, and I just completely fell in love with that. And then to the point where it was like, oh, you're gonna get married with the soccer ball, and I just grew up with that. Like it was all the way until I'm 24 now. I stopped when I was like 20, 21. So I just stopped not too long ago.
Yeah.
That's when I got into business, but
Yeah.
soccer was my whole
Let's
life.
keep going back this way. Let's get some more about the family system, because I believe that how we grow up and some of the things that happen within the family um, shape our future and our choices, um, and our perspective of how we see things. So you said parents working a lot. You guys had a lot of the responsibility of watching after the others.
Correct.
Um, Now, were there, um, we were talking about being Latino, and did they keep what kind of traditions did you guys grow up with, or any? Because, I know some, you know, it matters not to me, but for some people, um,
Yeah, no.
I'm always like, I don't care what you are, I care about who you are.
Sure.
But, I know some Latinos that are witnesses, Jehovah Witnesses, and they grow
Sure.
up with none.
No, yeah, yeah. I think this is a great question, right? Because
Yeah.
yes, we were very Pentecostal.
Okay.
My dad was even a pastor for 9 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so
I don't think I've ever met a Mexican Pentecostal.
yeah,
Only Catholics and
we
witnesses.
were Pentecostal, and
Wow.
my dad was a pastor in the Pentecostal church for 9 years. So we could even talk more about that
Yeah.
moving forward to the
Yeah.
teenagers when we broke away from religion, but or when I broke away from
Yeah.
religion. But my dad was a pastor, and we were very. I played drums for 9 years as well.
Okay.
I'm a musician. My brother played bass. He sang in the church, so we were part of the band for a very long time. And I loved the drums too. It was almost like soccer, but soccer still had an upper hand. But
Yeah.
the instrument, the drums, is something that I really did enjoy as well.
So y'all were uh so you had the Pentecostal religion, so that's gonna drive some morals, values, traditions, and whatnot. And then, of course, your parents being from Mexico. I don't know, I mean, they have Dia de los Muertos and stuff like that.
Yes,
But
we didn't celebrate any of that.
okay,
Yes.
what did they bring any of their traditions that they had in Mexico to you guys, or did y'all kind of do more American slash religious style?
It was more of a religious style growing up. I feel like my parents were very reserved, meaning
Yeah.
the household family, and that was it. We didn't really hang out with a lot of even outside of the home family. It was very reserved. That's how it felt. And I feel like I did carry that for a long time, but very reserved, very religious household. Sometime I would get upset that I couldn't go play. I was in a team, a soccer team,
Yeah.
and I couldn't go play because I had to be in church. I couldn't do certain things. I had to be in church. But that's how it was growing up. Yeah. But no,
Wow.
no traditions, none of that. It was more of a religious household, very strict.
Very strict.
Yeah.
And well, and me growing up in East Texas, it was my parents were not very strict. So even during the time, it was a big deal for my dad, who's white, to marry a Mexican, who my mom, and um, because East Texas during those times was very uh, racial. It was just different. And Um, so in terms of religion, my parents were like, look, there's a lot of religion here, and oftentimes,
Mm,
you know, a pastor would try to come by your house and talk to your mom or your parents about getting saved or something like that. And my mom was like, look, he's 10 years old. He he's been baptized, you know, because I got burned as a kid really bad and they didn't think I would make it. They go, but he when he's old enough to understand, he can make that choice for himself. But she was very kind of hands off because you had a white and a Mexican, a Baptist and a Catholic, in a very religious town. So they
makes
kind
sense.
of did their own thing. You know, we didn't really worship or practice. Um, some holidays, certain things, you know, I would go to the Catholic church or whatever.
Food.
Yeah. But, you know,
Yeah.
it was the weirdest thing to me was growing up in a place where there was so much religion, but, you know, my thing was is I didn't go a lot, but I did believe and I felt like I knew there was a God, but I didn't feel like it needed to be boxed into one of these categories. And then what I would see around me is like, you know, like your friends out drinking, trying to fornicate, pastor parties and stuff like that, and then going to church on Sunday and all is forgiven. Um, and I was, you know, I didn't go to church every Sunday, but I wasn't out there drinking and fornicating either. And so I can't, my view was like this very turned off. It was kind of like, I felt like it was very hypocritical. East Texas was,
Mhm.
you know, at that time. And so it was quite different, my acceptance of it, my understanding of it, you know. I always felt like my relationship with God, Jesus, was more personal and not communal. And I never felt the need to commune and or show off to prove to someone that I'm a believer. Um, but yeah, so very, very, very different. What was your experience growing up with um, a dad who was a pastor and a very religious household? Like, how did you how did you feel about the concept of like God and
Yeah. I mean, I'm very grateful for it. I think I wouldn't change it if I could go back, because it's definitely part of who I am, right? As you
right?
mentioned, I think it is true that everyone, if you really go back to your childhood, is it makes you who you are, all of it, 0 through 7. You know, and then you
Yeah.
mentioned the other day you said 7 through 15 and
Mhm.
15 through 24, different phases. But I do believe that, so I would say I wouldn't change it. I think that it was great that my parents taught me about God,
Mhm.
even though they taught me in a religious connotation, but still they taught me about
Yeah.
who God was, right? That there is a higher power, that there is something that's greater, a creator. And I still believe that to this day. It's just in a different way. Kind of like you mentioned, more relational. It's not a religious standpoint. And I don't have anything against people who are
Well, you
religious.
have to think about like I was telling somebody like really this there's no way like with gravity and everything so specific like how could you explain it if any things were
Yeah.
slightly off.
Well, everything has I believe that everything has a creator. Somebody created a table. Somebody created your chair. Somebody created everything. This computer. Someone created it, right? There's not one thing on this earth that wasn't created. not one thing. So then you start thinking about, well, you're created as well because everything is created, and if that's just the way it works, that means we're created by someone, somewhere. But we just that's always been a question. The question's always been, where did I come from and where am I going? That's been
Yeah,
the question since the dawn of civilization. It's the same questions. Where am I from and where am I going? No one knows. But there's a lot of different questions about a lot of speculations. And I've learned that through reading. I've read a lot.
mhm,
I started reading when I was 17, and that's really what changed everything for me. Was when I started reading at 17. I'm now 24, so it's been like around, I'll give it
mm,
7 years every day. I haven't stopped, just learning, and it's just a habit now. But
yeah.
reading is what changed everything for me.
So you were growing up in what years was your dad the pastor? Like around what
Sure.
ages?
So I was, when he became pastor, it was from like around, I'll say 12 through, no, I'll say around 11 through like 18, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Around there, or if not a little bit longer,
Okay. So
10, 10,
some pretty
18.
formative years. Now before that, so you were saying about what, 8 or 9, you picked up the soccer ball, you're doing that. Um, what was the religious practices in the house like around that time?
Sure. I mean,
What, just goers and
yeah. So
participate, and also you said your dad only speaks Spanish, so did y'all go to Spanish only sermons or
Spanish only.
oh
Spanish only. Yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
that's a good way, immersion
Yeah.
to learn.
Another reason we spoke Spanish because we were always in a Spanish church.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And participation wise, did because I know a lot of people, not just because your dad was the pastor, but pre-pastor, you get a lot of people who do engage in playing music with the church. You know, did you play music with the church before your dad was a pastor in those years, the early years, like 9, 10?
Um, I always loved the drums,
Mm-hmm.
but it was actually one of the people in the church. His son played the drum. He was an older gentleman than me at that time. He saw me looking at the drum one day. He just came up to me and said, "Hey, it looks like you really enjoy it. Here, let me take you up to my son." He took me up to his son. I was about I never played before my dad was already pastor, I think. Yeah, I think he was already pastor when I got introduced to the drum. And he introduced me to his son, and then the son started teaching me, and I picked it up very fast. It was just like natural. I just
Yeah.
picked it up, and then I fell in love with it ever since. And then I practiced it kind of like I practiced soccer because I was very into soccer, so I would practice so hard. Same thing with the drum. I practiced it very, very, very hard. I would watch videos. I would,
Yeah.
just
Now, did you, when you picked up the soccer ball and whatnot, did you start off in like a little league?
yeah, I did. But most of the time, I would walk to go find places to play at, just because it was my dad was always working, my mom was always working. As I said, it was kind of in the what you call it, the
Yeah.
hood to get. It was more. We didn't have much, so parents were always working, so I had to walk like 20, 30 minutes to find people to play with, and there were older people,
Yeah.
so it made me tougher because I was playing with the older folks, in their 20s up, and I was like, what? Say I was barely like 13 through 15
Yeah.
around the time frame I was having to find places to play at.
Now, I don't know much about North Carolina, but um, me being considerably older and the way things spread, um, and you mentioned the hood, was there any gang activity?
There was, and I
Did
was,
you have any, now were you ever pressured
um.
and or uh, jumped because you didn't want to participate?
So I was a fighter. I was always an aggressive, angry, younger kid. So I was always fighting, but I never participated in the gang activities. I didn't really appreciate it. I didn't like it because they picked on people at that age. They picked on people who were less,
Yeah.
smaller. They
Oh,
were
yeah.
a lot. They weren't as big as
Because they
them.
knew,
They could
yeah.
take advantage of it, right? So I was that kid who never liked that. I never liked to see it, so I was always fighting, getting suspended. Just always talking back to the teacher. Even I was always an angry
Where
kid.
does that come from?
I'm not sure. I told him. I talked to people about this. I told him because I heard something that says you can only connect the dots going backwards.
Yeah.
You can never connect them going
Like I
forwards.
told you. I realized my anger
There we
from
go.
the 7 year old.
Yes, yes, just like that. So I did a lot of that. So I've always went backwards to see where that came from and just and it just I came to the realization it's just who I was. I was a kid who didn't like certain things, but I wasn't afraid to vocalize that. Even when my teachers, when they were like, I'll give you this example of if I'm having a conversation back here in class and the teacher says, "Hey, you can't talk in my classroom." And then I would always, I would, even at that age, I would tell the teacher, well, who says I can't talk if God gave me a mouth? You know, and I was always that kid who would just respond, but just always speaking my mind, always. I didn't care what they thought. Kind of like your motto, you just, before we started, you said, oh, your shirt says something. Yeah, be authentic and they will adjust. And I was always that way. It was always like, hey, I don't care what you think. I'm going to tell you how I think. And then I even made friends with the principal, how much I was in there because I was always getting in trouble.
Now, did in terms of fighting, like so my dad, he was a Golden Glove boxer when he was young, and he fought while he was in the army. I think 98-11 was his record. Um, and
Wow,
yeah, he, but
it was good.
I was interested, like, I was born in 76, and so in the 80s, you had Bruce Lee and Chuck
Mm,
Norris. And so karate was kind of my thing. And I started
wow.
martial arts at a very young age and got a black belt and got second in nationals, first in regionals and stuff. But did you do any boxing or were you just self
No.
taught scrapper?
Yeah, I was just a self-taught always just how many fights I would get into. But after I joined soccer, the anger was now transmitted into the field. So I would even tell my now wife, I would always tell her how every time I stepped into a field, I turned into something else. Like I would just feel like another version of myself would come out on that field. And it was that anger that I would release in fighting. You know, as a young
Mm-hmm.
guy, you have it. But I no longer fought because I would always release my anger in the sport. And maybe because I started playing soccer through anger.
Well,
That
and the thing was, is I talk about that me being 7 years old, and then like I think at 8, I started playing little league football, and so you're hitting people,
makes
you're
sense.
taking hits, and so and martial arts, of course, I started that um, at 8 or 9 because I got my black belt when I was 11, and then 12, and so that was the outlet for my anger. But now, when you stepped onto the soccer field, were you angry?
Remember, it was because of my brother got into a relationship, so that was my way to, okay, well, this is
Yeah,
my new thing, right? So maybe it was. I mean, at that age, I don't really remember that much
right.
anymore, but I'm pretty sure it probably started because, well, this is my new place to cope, my new place to
Yeah.
release, and all of my energy started going there, and then
Now,
yeah.
did you play angry?
I
Like,
did. If you saw me on the field, I was an angry player. I was a player who very physical, very
what position?
middle and winger both.
Yeah. See, my school didn't have soccer, and so I never got to play it. But our
It's fun.
22-year-old daughter played soccer in high school, and because of that, our 12-year-old daughter kind of wants to play soccer. She's like, "Well, I'm either going to do this." She goes, "Soccer or tennis." I go, "Why tennis?" She goes, "Well, because you and mommy played tennis." And I'm like, you don't need bad rotator cuffs. I'm
There we
like,
go.
and then one of the doctors I worked with, my favorite, Dr. Eli, his daughter just got, um, I think, a scholarship to play D1 soccer. Um, but she was playing all the time, and you know,
Mm,
when I took my daughter to see him, we were talking about some stuff and interests, soccer, this versus that, and he's like, I think soccer's good because it translates very well into other areas. If you're good
absolutely.
at soccer, um, that it can benefit you, whether it's other sports or there's something about that one that translates well into performance in other areas of your life, I guess.
I agree. Yeah.
And which I have no idea how because I never got to play it, of course. But a lot of running. Um, and that's why I always say, like, I don't know the positions, but I know, like, what there's some people who have to stay here and some people can't go across certain lines
Yeah.
or whatever. But what do those positions kind of entail? Were you more of like a you said you did play angry, so were you always in, or what was more important, like scoring goals or like blocking, checking others,
Yeah, for me, since I play those positions, probably scoring
scoring?
as a winger.
And
Yeah,
you said you like to play physical.
I did. I loved playing physical. Yeah, it felt good. It just felt like you. I mean, if you're gonna be in the field, you might as well just give it your all, right? Because you only get 90 minutes.
Yeah.
So in those 90 minutes, just give it your all. And then after those 90 minutes are over, you don't want to regret it. Because when the 90 minutes are over, and then you can go back and say, well, I didn't give it my all. So I always thought, well, if I'm going to play these 90 minutes, just let me. Obviously, you have butterflies in your stomach. You have a little bit of fear before you start. That's normal. You always feel that
Mhm.
in any endeavor, I feel like. But those butterflies then become part of it. Like, okay, I'm feeling the butterflies, but then they go away once the game gets started, and then you just give it your all.
And what do you remember about the first time, you know, you stepped into an
Oh
actual
wow,
game versus like I'm just a kid finding other people to play with,
yeah, yeah,
and now it's like you're putting on a jersey for a
sure.
team.
No, that's
What
big.
was that like?
So this is actually a great question because I started late. Remember how I said how I would have to walk to find places to play at.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when I first got into a team, I had to find a way to get into that soccer team because I got cut for fighting or for not passing some grades in school. So I couldn't play the high school team that year. That was like my sophomore year in North Carolina. And I had to find a way to play outside of that. So, but going back to your question real quick, it felt obviously I can remember everything in detail, but it felt great. I know that for sure. But when I first played a travel team, was that was probably the best feeling because it was my first time ever having to pay for myself. So I started working illegally at a gas station with the drinks. You got to
Yeah.
be a certain age to be able to work with the beers and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I started working there because my mom worked in that gas station.
Okay.
So I had to find a way to work so I can provide for that travel team. So I worked, and then I paid for that travel team since I couldn't play that year. And then when I started playing with that team, we traveled playing us with a travel team. We just travel and play different places around North Carolina. And that was one of the funnest moments that I can remember. That was very, very fun.
Well, the crazy thing is um you love soccer that much, but why what what failed to translate for you to not do whatever it was you were doing that kept you from playing for school, you know, whether it was fighting grades, whatever. Um, what was your outlook on that? Like, you never, how come the love for soccer never overrode
Yeah,
that?
no, I understand what you're saying. So I also hated class. I was not a big fan. I know that that's opposite from you because you were a straight A student, right?
Well, I wasn't a big fan. I graduated high
It
school a
makes
year
sense.
early
Yeah.
because I was like, this is bullshit. Like, they're not teaching me
Yeah.
anything. It's like, I took I needed 4 classes and I took them the summer of my junior year at the college level. And then in August, I said, hey, I passed these classes. Can I get my diploma? And because I was like, they're, none of this really matters.
That makes sense. Yeah. So that was my case. I didn't enjoy
But
class
see,
that
I
much.
still put in the effort because I wanted to go to the Naval Academy and
That makes
stuff.
sense. Yeah. So that year, I don't know what class, but I failed a class, and they were like, "You can't play." But it started in middle school when I first wanted to play for the team, and the coach said, "You're not going to last on the team anyway, so we're not going to let you play," because I'm telling you, I was a bad kid. I was always fighting and suspended.
They use that as maybe encouragement or a carrot.
Oh, once you get suspended, you're off. You get terminated from the team. So the coach was just like, "Well, if you can't even last in school, you won't last in the team." But that was when I really started taking soccer like serious because I really wanted to play for this team. This was eighth grade year, And that's when I really fell in love with the sport, and I even gave it everything I could. And then sophomore year, whoa, fast forward in this, what is it? The first ninth grade. What is it? What is
Mm,
that? Freshman?
yeah.
Freshman year, I make the team, and everyone who came from that middle school, because I practiced so hard, everyone who came from that middle school made junior varsity is what it's called, and then there's a varsity.
Yep.
I was the only freshman from that whole school that made the varsity team that year. That's how hard I trained because that coach said I wasn't gonna. Basically, it felt like he was telling me you're not gonna be able to do it. So I took that to heart. I remember just training as hard as every day from like 10 to 2, 10 p.m. to 2 p.m., 2 a.m. every day. And I would do that late and I would go to sleep late just practicing. But it worked out because then I got to ninth grade and I was way ahead of everyone else who came from the school. And then I ended up making varsity my freshman year, and I played varsity all through high school. Never played junior varsity.
Yeah. I mean, well, it was a very small town, but I mean, yeah, I think I was a varsity freshman tennis player. And our junior year, me and my doubles partner, who's now an orthodontist, uh, we were seated number one in district. But my best friend, I played doubles with him, but he is far better than me. And after us playing doubles, he went to singles and like he went to state, I think. I mean, he was really good. Um, but yeah, varsity. So you played varsity all those years, and
Except for sophomore because I got kicked off for the grades.
yeah.
So I played travel that year, and then I came back junior year. I had 2 seasons junior year because that's when my junior year is when we moved down here to Texas.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, so what prompted the move?
So remember how I said my dad was, this is a little bit more personal, but my dad was a pastor
Mm-hmm.
at the church for 9 years. He ended up doing something with a member of the church. So he ended up giving up his position for something that happened. Yeah, as you probably, it's a lady friend. Um, and then he did that more than once. So he finally got kicked out of the house. My mom said, "Hey, if we want to start over, we have to move." So we had family down here in Texas. So we ended up making that big 19-hour move, start from scratch at the age of 17. So that's when everything ended up changing. And I would say it was a blessing because we came to a different environment. Most of the people that I grew up with are either in jail
Yeah.
or some of them dead, some of them not doing the greatest, right? But I take
Yeah.
it as
Did
a
your dad
blessing.
stay in North Carolina?
No, they're still together. My mom, she's a big believer of till death do us part,
Yeah.
and she taught
So
us that.
so it's kind of like like what they tell people, like with alcohol addiction, you got to change your people's places and things. And so kind of like your mom going, we need a fresh start. Now, you said what years did she own the restaurant?
She did that here in Texas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
So she had him here in Texas. Yeah.
okay,
This wasn't too long ago. She had it for 2 years, I think, around just about.
man. Okay, so I'm tracking. You got all that. The things happen with pops and mom's like, till death do us part, but we need a change. And you had family here. And so, and now was it specifically here, like to Tyler?
To yeah, this area, Tyler. Yeah.
Wow. So
Yep.
coming from North Carolina, what was that? What was that like?
Well, my main focus was soccer, as you can
Yeah.
probably hear from the conversation. So when I came, I stayed over there an extra month. My family came down here. I stayed with an uncle down there to finish my season in high school. As soon as I came down here, the season was about to get started down here because they started in opposite. The seasons are different. The season over there is in like start of January. The season down here is in December or the start of July. And then over here is in December. So as soon as that finished, I stayed over there an extra month. My family came down here. They moved down here. So I came over here. It was hard, yes, but I was just excited to get playing again because I heard that we were going to get started as soon as I got here. So was I happy about the move? Absolutely not. It was I didn't know what to expect. I didn't even know what to think. I was just
Did you
like,
have a girlfriend? Were you leaving anybody
no,
behind?
no. It was always soccer.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I cared about. It's crazy, but I even looking back now, I'm grateful for the sport because it's like kept me out of trouble. It kept me out of a whole bunch of things that could have happened.
Didn't keep your grades up.
I didn't care about the grade. So, um, but yeah, we moved down here and became part of the soccer team in this high school down here at the high school down here. Exceeded, did well there, and became captain the second year, senior year here, became captain and the top goal scorer here. And then I went to college after that. But it was always about soccer. But when it comes to the family, it was hard. But it's even still to this day, the family is even getting better now. So
Yeah, well, it takes time. How did the rest of the family adjust and come to enjoy Tyler, Texas?
they actually enjoyed it after a while. They started liking it down here, and they started really they just appreciated it. They thought it was a different scenario, different place. They really enjoyed it. That's all I said. That's what I've heard.
Yeah,
Yeah, that they
that's
really
what
enjoyed
you've
it.
heard.
Yeah, and that's what I felt too. I really enjoyed it myself after a while.
Now, did that did how did the move change the family dynamics, if it did at all, whether between your relationships with your siblings or your parents? Did any of your siblings, you know, uh, thrive as a result of the move, or
Sure. Well, the siblings were younger.
mhm,
There's only two of us that were it was basically teenage and up.
yeah,
The other ones was still a little bit smaller. So yeah, I think it was just hard for them. It was just unspoken. We didn't even speak about the whole situation. We just made the move, and it was just unspoken about. So um, we just had to cope with it. That's how our family coped with it. They didn't even talk about it, and they just got through it that way.
sounds like a Mexican family. We
That's
don't talk
exactly
about
what
it.
that's exactly what it sounds like. That's exactly what it was. Yeah, no, for sure. Um, but that's how it was.
And yeah, you get here. And speaking of which, I gotta ask, what especially I'm a foodie. I worked in restaurants for a long time. Um, Country clubs, worked in South
Okay.
Florida, some restaurants. What's Mexican food like in North Carolina versus like here?
Well, we always ate mama's food,
Okay.
so it was always her food growing up. But I think the outside, what
Do they have Mexican restaurants in North Carolina? I
yeah, I'm
mean,
trying to
I'm sure
think.
like
I
BJ's
I
or
really don't think so. Not that
yeah.
we ate. We always ate mama's food. So I'm really not. I really know how to answer that.
Well, it's
Yeah,
because well, my curiosity is like, what you said you had family here, so obviously, but I mean, here we have a good Latino population here, you know, and
it's
so
pretty big. Yeah,
yeah, you think about we got a couple of grocery stores dedicated, you know, um, and so yeah, I was kind of curious, like how did it differ, because there's always, of course, the California versus Texas Mexican food.
yeah,
People are um, I've met people. I worked with an APD, Austin police officer, one time who's like, California Mexican food is just way better. Like I don't like it here. And I'm like, I mean, surely it's gotta be like, can't be that different.
yeah,
I mean, onions, cilantro, steak and tortilla. um, yeah, so I was a little bit curious if there was any difference. But like you said, you always ate mom's food. So that was kind of always the thing. Now, what about friends? Did you acquire any friends while you were here? Or was it more just teammates since you were strictly
sure.
soccer?
More teammates. More teammates. Didn't really focus on making friends. Just wanted to get somewhere with soccer. And
Somewhere.
that's where, yeah, that's where a lot of even my biggest struggle was. I always put my head down, just focus on the game. And I lost a lot of relationships that way. Even family thought that I was just being distant, but in reality, it was just in my mind, I had to go. I
Yeah.
have to be a soccer player. I'm going to be a soccer player. Even in college, I went to college 3 years, and I remember the season was about to end my last year, my third year, and I didn't go to school for like I didn't go to class for like 2 months because I already had it in mind that I was going to go play semi-professional. So I didn't even go to class. I waited for the season to end, then I went straight to semi after that,
So
semi-professional.
let's back up a little bit. So you're team captain. So I'm sure that gives you, and you said top scorer.
Yes.
So that kind of, but not academically.
No, no. My
Um,
academics, my GPA was a 1.2 when I graduated.
so how, but your
It's just
soccer
about
your soccer skills are what got you
sure.
into college.
Yep. And then
Where
my coach.
where'd
Yeah.
you end up going to college?
I ended up going to, TJC around here.
Hmm.
We played against them. So I was in that district, about an hour and a half from here. It's called NTCC.
Hmm.
So I played there, played against TJC and all those schools around here. Very, very competitive. A lot of foreigners go there, a lot of Africans, a lot of Jamaicans, English, French, because the foreigners, they can't go straight to D2 or a D1 college. They have to go to junior college first. So playing against that made my
I didn't know that.
yeah. So there was I had French teammates, I had Spanish teammates, I had Portuguese teammates all around the world just come down here so they can get a last shot at the sport. And
Now they in this school is like very like
D1 junior college is very competitive.
integrated into soccer because
Yes, yes.
yeah, I mean, like growing up here, like I knew I was had TJC and
Mm.
I've taken courses there and stuff, but um I never really paid attention to sports until probably when I was a martial arts person, so I love like UFC and whatnot.
Oh yeah, same.
And so I never it wasn't until people would be like, oh, he was a D1 wrestler or
Mm.
something like that, that I was like, what does that even mean? In terms of levels
Sure.
of, and how people select certain schools that they go to, or, that they have programs that are,
Mm.
like TJC, I think was a big like tennis school.
Yeah, everything about TSC is good. They're good at everything.
Really?
Very good program. Oh yes. Best soccer team in the whole district that I played at. They were always number one. To this day, they're always number one.
Man,
They're
it's
really good.
wild. There's an actor, Shea Wiggins. Um, you would know him if you saw him. He's been in a lot of stuff, but when I look at up his bio, because I'm always interested in the person, like behind the character,
Yeah.
and he went to TJC and he said he loved it. And it's crazy because like me growing up here and graduating high school a year early, I mean, I took the classes I needed to graduate at TJC. But my idea in 1993 was I need to get out of here as fast
Sure.
as possible. 94, and so I joined the Navy at 17.
Wow.
I had my parents sign, and then I
Yeah.
had my 19th birthday in Japan, and so it's different. But when I hear other people who come to TJC, you grow up here, you're like, no, that's the common thing. It's like going to the 13th grade. You don't want to go there. But people who come from the outside, you learn that it's a good school. And, you know, they have some esteemed
Yeah.
programs.
Well, it's the program. The person who I've heard the person who created it made it a successful program. It always starts with a mind, a positive and a great mind who starts a program, and then it carries that legacy. So TJC had a great mind who started it, and it's carried on that legacy ever since. The program what wouldn't be that program if it wasn't for that gentleman who created the program. I forgot his name, but he created it that way, and now the program is so successful overall because of that one person who made it that way.
I met a guy somewhere who his wife was a program or a coach at TJC for something. And I was like, and he was talking about how big of a deal it was.
It's huge. I mean, straight foreigners, and they only recruit the best players,
Wow.
and they barely recruit from the Texas. They only get foreigners. Like they get most foreigners. There's probably like one or two Texans playing in all the TJC. The rest of them are English, Jamaican, all that stuff. At least when I played.
Wow.
Yeah, they're good. They're really good.
Man,
Yeah,
that is that kind of makes me feel, it gives me a little bit of a sense of pride.
it should.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, yeah, because I mean, I've seen, because of our age difference, I've seen where UT used to be only a third and fourth year school when my dad went there. Like your options were you go to TJC and then you do years 3 and 4 at UT. They didn't even offer the first 2 years.
Mm,
And now here we are, they're building a medical school. When I was in graduate school, they were putting up the pharmacy school and program,
mm.
and because every Saturday and Sunday when I was at the library, they were, pounding away next door, putting up the pharmacy school. And I'm like, man. And when I was an undergrad, my uncle who does construction um, built the science and engineering building there.
Wow.
And so, um, yeah, to just see it kind of grow. And then I know when I was an undergrad, UT Tyler, I remember Tiffany Cooksey, who played soccer for UT Tyler. I knew that they had soccer. I don't know if they had basketball then, but they're starting to get some, I
Mm.
guess, more programs as the school goes up. But back to you. So you end up going to school, college,
Yes.
playing soccer. You weren't, were you just getting basics or what did you intend to major on? Or what
Well,
did you actually put on paper?
sure. I did. I put psychology and I think it was psychology and nutrition. I didn't start there, but I loved psychology because I started reading a whole bunch of books at that age as well. Or a little bit earlier before that. I think I was like 17, 18 when I started reading.
What kind of books
I
were they?
mentioned more self-development, self-help books.
And what drew you to that?
Oh man.
Why those kinds of books? Because I was
I was
always interested in
seeking.
the military.
Yeah.
So, and I knew I was going to go in the military. So for me, a lot of my books I read were like Force Recon Diary
Yeah.
69, Force
Sure.
Recon Diary 70. Um, they were nonfiction, military,
Make
historical
sense.
type stuff. But I also had like the big book of brain because somewhere along the way I was fortunate enough as a junior, our biology 2 course was an anatomy and physiology course in high school. um, and it was difficult at that level in those years. But I can remember being told that, hey, you only use like 10% of your brain,
Mm.
or that's
Yeah.
all we activate or something. And I'm like,
Sure.
so I was very interested in kind of knowing more about that, and whether you call it self-help, self-improvement. Um, I don't know. I too was interested in that because I guess, I was a kid. I grew up 3 pound. I was born a preemie, 3 pounds 11 ounces. I was always told I couldn't what I couldn't do. You're never gonna be like other people. You're got asthma. You're sick. I was 4'11" and 90 pounds as a freshman. Thank God I played little league because I couldn't play. That's why I switched to tennis. I couldn't
Mm.
play football
Yeah.
because everybody outgrew me at 14. And so when you're told you're never going to be like everyone else and you can't do this, then, and you hear, oh, you only use 10% of your brain or whatever, self-improvement and or self-development seemed natural for me
Mm.
because I wanted to learn how I could just be like everybody else. So what was the draw for you? I mean, outside of athletics, what drew you to the mind?
Sure. I think looking back now at my age now, I know that it was I wanted direction. I was looking for direction because I never had a relationship with my father. Even though he was a pastor, he was in our lives. He was always very distant emotionally. He was never there, and that's just the Mexican household, as you
Yeah,
just said. That's just the way a lot of the Mexican culture. I wouldn't say every single one of them, but the Mexican culture, it is the father's very distant. He's just there providing,
yeah.
always working. So when I got to that age, I really was looking for direction. So I started listening to a lot of positive things. Like today, you have a lot of different positive things online. Same
Mhm.
thing with me. I was already listening to certain things. Eric Thomas being one of them. I love Eric Thomas.
Well, you're fortunate enough to be in an age
Sure.
where, you know, this was available.
Yeah,
My first computer use was
that makes
typing
sense.
class, AAA,
That makes sense.
SSS. I remember
Sure.
before and after, and I probably I didn't get my first smartphone probably till 2014,
Wow.
2013 maybe. I was a late adopter, but you know, that opened up for you a wealth of,
Yes.
because the other thing I wanted to ask in with that was as a soccer player and being so obsessed with soccer, and also having the tools and whatnot that you're able to have because of your age. Did you know that mindset? Did your
Sure.
coaches talk about mindset?
Um,
And was that also a piece of, 10% of your brain mindset, but then also needing direction because your father's distant and not giving you the stuff?
so when it comes to that question, ask it one more time so I can understand how you're asking it.
You're seeking into like self-improvement, psychology, reading about that was partly because you needed direction.
Okay.
But
Yes, yes.
also, was there a component
Sure.
of your sports side because of surely your coaches said mindset. Did you
Yes.
guys ever go through
I
visualization
see what
type
you mean.
stuff?
No,
Yeah,
so when I started listening to ET and all these different people online, I name all their names, but I don't know if that's relevant, but
yeah.
not really.
No.
So I started listening to a whole bunch of different uh, people who really helped me mentally, but I would always apply it to the sport that I was playing. So then they mentioned a book, and then I was like, well, I need to start reading. All these people always talk about you got to read. You
Yeah,
have to read. If you don't read, you won't get any. And I always heard that. So I kept hearing the same book everywhere that I listened. I was like, man, I have to get it. You might know the book if I said it. It's Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, my favorite book of all time. And I just fell in love with it. The first book I read was David Goggins' You Can't Hurt Me.
yeah.
That was the first book I read. And that book opened up a whole world for me of self-development. And I was like, okay, this guy's talking about the mind that way, and I'm learning about it here. And then another gentleman, that's when he named Think and Grow Rich. I was like, I got to buy it. I
Yeah.
bought it, and that was when I read that book, everything changed for me.
God, I need to get that book. I haven't
Everything.
read it, but I've heard
Oh man,
Napoleon Hill a billion times of the podcasts I
that's what
listen
I'm
to.
saying. So Napoleon Hill, he has actually created the most millionaires in today's world since he's wrote the book.
Yeah.
So that book has created more millionaires and more successful people than any other book. And I kept hearing that, and then not only from these people, but from a whole bunch of other people. And if you read a lot of books, you start noticing that they all reference that book. So I was like, this is a great book. But I think that's why I believe in I believe in something higher because I felt like when I started seeking, which the Bible says, you
Hmm.
ask, you shall receive, you seek, you shall find, you knock, and it shall be opened unto you. And I was always asking, and I was always asking. And then I felt like something started guiding me. Something started guiding me. Okay, read this. And then I would pay attention to it though. I learned how to pay attention to that voice, that intuition, that higher power, the spirit inside of you. I started listening to it. I was like, okay, well, if I'm feeling this way, I'm going to read it. So I read it and then I fell in love with the information. And then from there, I studied that book. I didn't just read it, I studied it. To this day, I still study it because it's just that powerful. But then you start learning different information, and that's the reason I even left soccer.
Well, so let's tie those in because the original question was, what did you put down that you were majoring in? And you said psychology.
Yeah.
And so, I'm trying to find the intersections of, you said 17, you start to read, picking up books, soccer's your thing. You're going to college, you're going to mark off psychology because you were interested in the brain somewhat,
Yeah.
or um, because I think we lived in two different time frames, 20 some years apart. So you had that availability, and yeah, so trying to see where they all intersect and come together. How now did these books, even though they're talking about that, how did you apply it to the game?
Yes. Everything about the game is mind.
Okay.
If you have a weak mind, you won't be a good athlete. So everything about the books, I applied it to the game. Everything. And then he gives you a formula of how to be successful programming your mind. So I programmed my mind to become successful in the game. And then I saw that it worked there first. That's where I first used the principle. And I saw that it worked because then I went to semi-professional. I started getting different opportunities, just like he said in the book would happen if you followed his principles. And I was like, well, it works because I saw it happen in the game. And then that's when I knew, even though my teacher was like, you're making a big mistake. My coach was, you're making a big mistake. Don't leave, don't leave. And I'm like, I already know what I'm gonna do. Like it's already written. First of all, he talks about if you don't write, that's the first step. If you
But
don't write, you won't
almost
realize.
like saying something out loud.
Yeah, Yeah, because you're using when you're writing, you're using all your senses. Because you're writing, you're using your touch, you're using your visual, you're using your hearing because you're saying it. So it all starts with the visual. It all starts with writing it. And even the Bible says, write it down and make it plain. And then people don't write it down to make it plain. So that's what Napoleon teaches is it starts with a written statement. So I tried it first in soccer. So you're right, everything about the book applies about the mind applies to the game. So I applied it there first, and that's when I saw this works. And then yeah, I'll answer it like that.
Or you just kept going and taking that in. And okay, so give us a few highlights of what was like your proudest moment in college on the field,
Well, there was a lot of them.
and why? What made them your, what made the moment, give us a moment that you felt that you knew like, hey, I'm in the right place, living my purpose. What did it feel like? What was the moment like? And, where did it kind of go from there? Because, you're not playing soccer now. So we got to
Sure.
get the
No, that's good.
contrast.
Yeah. So my first year, I got injured.
Oh,
I injured my left ankle, and that led me down to smoking weed. So that's my first time ever smoking weed was when I got injured. That whole year, I smoked because I heard that if you smoke, you can actually
right.
fix yourself. You can actually, your body can heal itself through the marijuana. That's why the doctors use it as medicine. So I was like, well, let me try it, and it worked. It did. You could feel it working on you.
No, oh,
I'm not a big advocator of it, but
right.
it worked for me. So
Well, hold on. Let me take one step back. Where did the religious separation come?
yes, that started with the books because the
Oh,
book.
okay.
Yeah, that all started with the books as well, because the books teach you it's all about mind. You create your heaven or hell, and but what religion does is they don't know where you're going, they don't know where you come from, so they tell you there's a hell and there's a heaven, and they say if you die, you're gonna burn in hell of eternity, or you're gonna live
Yeah.
good of eternity. I don't believe in that. I believe you can make your heaven here, you can make your heaven and hell here because of what I've learned. And the books say that they say, well, what is heaven and hell? We all know since and this is elementary physics, right? But we know that everything on this earth is either energy or matter. So if this is matter, that means we have an energy in there called spirit. And then if I were to, I always make this funny analogy. It's not funny, but if
Mm,
someone were to come and, kind of take your life right now, your body would decay, but your energy would go somewhere and just no one knows where. But through these books, I started realizing, well, I've just been taught how to be in fear because they keep you in fear saying you're going to go to hell if you don't do this. If you're going to do, if you don't do what I'm saying, and there's 40,000 religions, and they say, hey, if you don't do what I'm saying, you're going to go, and they all think they're right. So that's not really, and then I heard something that said, God doesn't have a pen. He doesn't have a hand to come down here and start writing a book. Why is there many books? Then I started really asking questions. There's so many books for every religion. They all think they're right. So I'm like, well, if there is really no religion, then what is the meaning of life? And it's just a relationship there. And I'm not saying religion is bad. If you
right.
believe in something, good for you, right? Like you're learning how to have a
Or
relationship through that religion.
whatever you believe
Yeah, I
is
don't bash any religion,
right.
but for me, it's a relationship
It's
to
personal.
personal relationship to the person or the thing that created
Whatever
us.
it is, like my best friend Andrew, I think he's the one that gave me this, but I say it all the time as I go, it's like water. Um, Everyone on the earth, we know what water is, we know that we have to have it, we know you can only last so long
Sure.
without it, but we all call it something different,
100%.
you know?
100%. And it's like that analogy they say, like a fish without water, it's going to die, or a plant without water is going to die. Everything without its substance is going to die. And that's the human without that creator. When you're not connected to that creator, you start dying.
So that started with the books.
All the books.
So
Yeah.
you got
It's many books
so
now,
you
but
got yeah, so you got soccer, you got the books. The books influence soccer principles that way. The books influence or change how you see and or view religion,
yes,
and which is a big deal, kind of given your dad being a pastor. Although I wouldn't say overly big because you often see people whose parents were of that archetype, and the kids go fucking bananas afterwards. And um
I'm just glad I did it and I found the books.
just to get the freedom.
Yeah,
And so what when you found that and you started like discerning, differentiating like the religious portion to like that personal connection, um what was that like for your family? How did they view it? Did you tell them outright? Did you stop just participating, or
sure.
what did they think?
No, but I don't think they thought anything, but I think that they could tell
Mm-hmm.
something was different, right? They could just tell that this guy's he knows a little bit more now. And I would share with them every now and then, like what I'm learning from the books, and they just didn't understand it. You can't teach somebody who's not willing to learn
He's not
new
open.
information. Yeah, open-minded. And I soon noticed that they weren't really receptive to it, so I stopped because it was only hurting the relationship instead of me trying to help them understand what I've learned. Instead of that being the case, they would see me as, well, you're kind of crazy, right? So I'm like, well, it's fine. You could think I'm crazy, but I'm learning. And they always say if you want to learn a secret, it's in a book. They even tell you if you want to learn spirituality, go read the Bible. They tell you all these things. There's always, since the dawn of civilization, since the start of the United States, it's always all the secrets have been in the books. I mean, you go back to the slaves, they said we don't want them to read because if they read, they're going to find their spirituality. They're going to find who they really are. Every single secret, it's in a book. So I heard that, and I kept hearing that every time that I heard these influential people. So I started reading like crazy, like a maniac, and I started falling in love with reading. And every day, till this day, I wake up early and I read. I have to because I want to learn. What am I missing? What do I not know yet? And that's been driving me ever since. But yes, I would say that I didn't have to tell them; they can see it. Oh, this guy's different. He has a mind of his own. And once you find out you have a mind of your own, you can't be controlled by anyone and anything, right? And there's somebody who's higher than you who guides you. You seek and you shall find, you knock and it shall be open. And then he literally guides you through your now I'm a very big believer in the subconscious mind. Through your subconscious mind, he guides you. That's your higher power. When you're sleeping, your heart's beating. When you're sleeping, your hair's still growing. Even though you shaved the night before, it's still growing. But you're not consciously growing your hair, it's your subconscious growing that. You're not making your heart beat, it's your subconscious mind
Well, it's
keeping
almost
your
like
heart beat.
Chase Hughes. He
Yes,
always says, um, like as he talks about goals and stuff, he goes, like him and Andrew Bustamante, uh, the reason like the CIA and whatever their focus in psychology is so heavy is because regardless of what's between your legs or what language you speak or what, you know, country you're in, our brains are anatomically and physiologically the same. Language was the last thing to develop for us. And that's why he says, um, he's like, he's a big believer in like vision boards, I guess. I wouldn't say believer, but I'm saying um,
I have one.
promoter of
Yeah, I
vision
have one.
boards. I have one too. I have
I
a
agree with
digital
him.
one on my phone. But he says because language was the last thing to develop in our brains, um, when you said subconscious, he's like, it's, you know, like an animal. We're like primates, and that's how they use these principles of going, no matter where you are on Earth, the brains are the same. They're made the same way. The language is different. He goes, so like, you would show, how would you tell your goals to a dog? They don't understand English. You would
Yep.
show them via picture or gesture and stuff like that. And so, and he said the same thing about like your subconscious mind. He's like, you know, you could get well dressed up, go into a job interview and maybe fucking nail it. But then the person doesn't hire you. And he goes, because maybe back home you got a sink full of dishes, your laundry's all bunched up and jacked up, you didn't fold it. It's like you're really a mess over there. And that energy comes out and people could sense it. They just may be like, it's something they can't put their finger on, but they know like it made a difference that they didn't want to hire you. And so talking about how deep some of your subconscious
Yes,
things will show up.
that's a fact. Yeah, that is a fact. I agree with that 100%. Something that I've learned. Have you ever read The Psycho Cybernetics by
No.
Maxwell Maltz? It's a great, phenomenal book. It's written in the 30s, I think, or very,
Mm-hmm.
very back then. And he talks about that the only thing for humans to do is to wire their conscious mind. And he says that when you wire your conscious mind, he calls it servo mechanism or subconscious mind. It takes over and then it starts doing the thing for you. But the problem with humans is that only 2% of humans have goals. The other 98 don't even have a goal because they never wrote it down and they never set a goal for themselves. By when do they want to achieve it? What goal by when? And then when you have that in mind, you start picturing it, and that's the only job that we have as humans is to picture. But here's what humans do: they try to will their way. I'm gonna grind. I'm gonna grind. I'm gonna grind. I'm gonna will. That doesn't work, and that's why 98% of people fail is because they don't wire their conscious mind for their servo mechanism to work for them. And that's that higher power. That's that subconscious mind that works for you, regardless if you're sleeping or awake. It's always working for you. But you got to learn how to wire your conscious or rational mind, as he calls it, rational thinking, so you can let your servo mechanism work for you. But most people don't do that. All you have to do is really just sit there and picture. Like take some time out of your day to picture. That's what he says. Just picture. Relax yourself. Don't focus so much on how I'm going to do it consciously. No, let your unconscious take care of that. You just consciously focus on the picture you want. And that's what the people who succeed at the highest level do, which is crazy because they all say the same thing, but he explains it very well.
Well, when I've talked about visualization before, um, in just in general, I'll uh, I relate it to if you don't think it works, um, I go think of an erotic movie, an X-rated movie or something, and see if you don't get hard or something. And I go, yeah, visualize something like that, and it creates a physiological response, be it horniness or something. I'm like, yeah, it can be powerful, but apply it to something else, apply it to
For sure.
$1 million, um,
Yeah.
or whatever else it is you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing I'll say on that topic, because I really enjoy this, is he says that when people go to watch a hypnotist, if you go to, have you ever been to
I haven't.
hypnotism?
I kind of want to go.
Okay, so people say that he was saying that people in the audience say, "Oh, he's using magic," but he says that what the hypnotists say is that they don't do anything but shut off your beliefs and they make you believe something new. So the problem with humans is that they already have a belief system that they live by, and what they need to do is create a new belief system that can help them get the goals they want. But they're hypnotized, literally hypnotized. That's what he says. They're literally hypnotized with beliefs that aren't even real, like I'm not good enough or I'm not worthy enough. As you have just mentioned that you
Yeah,
felt growing up, some other people live with that still. They're like, "Oh, I'm not good enough," and they are hypnotized to believe that, so they can't achieve the goals that they have because they're living in that hypnotism. But what they need to learn how to do is re-hypnotize themselves to believe success. You know what? I am worthy enough, instead of saying I'm not worthy. So they're living in the hypnotism,
yeah.
and the hypnotists say all they do is they shut off their belief system. They're able to shut off their belief system to give them a new one. And then if they say you're a ballerina when I do whatever, and then they become a ballerina. How? Because their belief system is shut off. The hypnotists know how to do that. We can be our own hypnotist, is what he says. And it's true. And that's what successful people do.
That's what I got to figure out how to hypnotize myself.
Well, it's
But
on the books.
well, because Chase Hughes, he's big on. He said
I want
like
to meet Chase Hughes. Who is this?
he's worked with UFC fighters, and he said
Wow.
like I guess whatever, like you have a keyword or something or whatever he did, and they were like the trainers, whoever noticed, they were like he just like almost like this person turned into a
Yes,
whole different person during the
absolutely.
fight. And yeah, he I was like, but he's always said some other stuff. They talk about like people with smooth, like there's signs of who's easily hypnotizable, who's not, whatever. Um, but he talks about, can you be hypnotized to kill someone? And he's like, yes, they could. Um, but yeah, it's very. there was a documentary on a principal who was hypnotizing some of the students. I don't know if you've seen it.
Wow, no.
And it was in Florida, and to help them get past certain things. But then I want to say something happened, and there was a few like kids. Maybe I don't know if one died, and like maybe they killed themselves,
Mhm.
and then another one I think potentially um was driving. They left an appointment or something, and it was driving and got in a fatal car accident. But like felt like maybe he would went under hypnosis, something like a song or something that was going on, put him in a state as he was driving, and he just kind of zoned out. But yeah, so you're talking subconscious. It's weird because I think about like the college years and then I go, well, he's only 24, so this really all isn't that long ago.
Hmm.
But you say coaches and everybody, you're like, hey, you're making a mistake. You're like, no, I'm gonna do this. And you made the choice to leave college and pursue soccer at a higher level.
Semi, yeah.
And what was well, I don't know. Take us through that. Everybody said you're making a mistake,
Yeah.
but you said, I know this is
Yeah.
my time.
Yeah. Because I was reading that the principle that he said, the written statement, I was reading that every day. So I already knew that I was going to be a professional soccer player in my mind. And then they kept telling me, "Hey, you're making a mistake. You're going to regret it in the future." I said, "No, I'm not." So then season ended right away. I left. And I remember one of the best players on our team. We were talking about the belief system, right? I was talking to him before I left that last night, and I was just telling him, "Hey, you ready to go pro?" Because that was my mindset. You ready to play professional? He was like, "Nah, man, that's hard. Not many people do that. I don't think we can do that. That's not many people do that, right?" That was his mindset, his belief system. He said it's very hard to get there, and I was telling him, and I wasn't even. He was better than me. He was older than me. He was better than me. I'll admit that. But my mindset was, that's not true. I'm going to be a professional soccer player. I told him that. And then he just kept saying he doesn't think he could do it. It's too much competition. Only 1% of people actually make it. And I remember just remembering that, and then I still carry that with me to this day. Just his mindset.
Playing if you didn't think you were going to make it.
I don't
You
know.
know what I'm saying? Because it's
Well, that's the
like
thing. It's the belief system.
we had this instance where when we went on a cruise for my daughter's 12th, she had her birthday on the cruise. We get to the Woodlands 3 hours away and realize that my wife left our passports here. And it's a long story. There's a whole episode on it. But essentially, it's like my wife, my mom, and my daughter, they went ahead and went to the port. My wife's ex husband, him and I are very close. Our birthdays are a day apart. We picked him up Boudin from Woody's and he came to get it. He drove he drove me and my cousin, because we live in a multi-generational household. My cousin got the bag and we intersected in Buffalo. And then my wife's ex-husband drives me to the port with our passports, and we're trying to get there by 2 p.m. before the ship takes off. And at like 2:30, but you got to be all aboard by like 2. And we're sitting there, and at one point he's like, dude, he goes, I think you guys are fucked. I don't think you're gonna make it. And this was like way before, and the clock was showing like you're gonna get there at 2:06. And I was like, I don't even put that out there. I said, I don't want to hear nothing about it. I go, don't even put that out there. We're gonna make it. And we made it. And I had to piss in my Stanley Cup that eventually got tossed, you know.
Not this one.
Not this one. This one's a Yeti. That's why I got a new
There you go.
Yeti. But, you know, we made it like barely in the nick of time, and it was kind of like when we hit like downtown Houston, it pops up and goes save 16 minutes. I'm like, fuck yeah. And it rerouted us, and but then added 5 minutes, to the clock, I was like, I don't know, we're saving 16, and now our arrival went from 2:01 to 2:06, but we got there. And I was like, yes, I was praying, believing, visualizing, but because there was a motorcycle rally that weekend in Galveston, lots of traffic. Houston is like, how many things had to line up to make that happen? Perfection. But I also, the biggest thing was squashing that. Don't even put it out there that
We're
we're
gonna
fucked
make
or we're
it.
not going to make it.
Yeah,
I'm only going because I believe we can make it, you know?
that's the way life works.
And so when you're
Yeah,
talking about like, you know, you got a guy who's better than you, and you're like, I don't know. It's
yeah,
like, you can't even, no, that can't be an option,
yep,
you know?
exactly. Yeah. So I remember to this day I carry that conversation. I'm like, it was just the way he thought. He probably didn't make it. But I went on to play semi, and then I played with a professional player. You probably might know him. His name is Clint Dempsey. Played with him for a little bit, and I got cut from there. And that's when I was through the books and all these different things. I was already falling in love with people because I was like, when you read, you start learning who people are and how people
Yeah.
work because you start. First of all, you realize everyone's unique. There only has ever been one me. Only will ever be one me. There's never going to be a replica. Same thing with you. There's only ever been one of you to this point. There's only ever going to be one of you. And when you start learning that through these books, it's like, wow, everyone's unique and they don't even know how unique they are. I want to help people find out how unique they are. And that's where my I think purpose came from. I found out what it was. But I asked myself, do I really want to just entertain people or do I want to help people? Because soccer's entertainment. You're scoring a goal and you're in the camera.
Yeah. Well,
Do I want to entertain people or do I want to help people?
okay, let's back up 1 second for the let's hear about the semi-pro. What was that like?
It was fun. It was good. I met a lot
So
of new
you
people.
so you left, and how
I
does that even work? How do you, I mean, I know like
packed up and left.
I know like there's feeder teams like in the minor leagues or whatever for
Yes.
baseball. That I didn't know this for a long time, but I think what
Yeah.
like you go to certain teams and these people play and they're kind of setting them up for the big leagues.
Yes.
Is it
That was the
similar?
same here in Texas.
Okay.
So I had a drive. I had an old Honda, a beat up Honda.
Yeah.
I would have to drive from here to Dallas, and I made it work. I don't know how, like, just like you kind of said just before. Don't even say that we're gonna make it. The thought did come. My car might break down on the way.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, no, don't even say that. Let's go. We're gonna make it.
Trader Joe's
And we
with you
went.
one time in my car. Actually, something happened like this switch. I made it to the interview, and then when I got done with the interview, it's like it didn't want to start or
There we go.
something.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Not funny, but it's
Yeah,
that's
it's
how it
the
works.
reveal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is wild. But yeah, so you start playing semi-pro. What was that? I mean, what was the caliber difference from college to semi-pro?
I would say it was not the biggest difference because I'm playing with older people in college.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, they came from France, Spain. There's a lot of quality there already. A lot older than I was. I think there was 27-year-olds. I
Mhm.
was 19. So it was a very big difference. The French were like 26, 27. They were older than I was. So when I got to semi-pro, some of them were younger than the people I played with at college. So
Now, did any of them take you like under their wing, like mentorship type
uh,
stuff?
no, but I was fortunate enough that I was one of the only soccer players to have a job in college. So I
Hmm.
worked at the college gym.
Oh,
I worked there, and sometimes they would come in. I remember the French would come in. He would sometimes give me mindset. Being 26 and I was 19, he would give me a lot of mindset because I would ask him. I was always a question asker. So one time he was on the bike. I got next to him, the bike next to him. We started. We call it a recovery bike.
yeah.
So we sit there and I started asking him questions. I'm like, hey, how can I get better? What do I need to do? And he tells me, well, first of all, what you need to do is just use your strengths. One of the things he told me, use your strengths. You're good at this. You're good at that. Focus on that. And then he also told me, learn to recover. If you learn to recover your body, you'll be a lot more efficient. And then he said, start working out. He told me to start working out as well, and he just gave me a lot of pointers. But one of the things he always taught me was know what you're gonna do before you get the ball. So, because that's something that he was really good at. When he got the ball, it looks like he already knew what he was gonna do next, and I was struggling with that because at that age I was still like receiving the ball, and then I would think about what to do. But he told me, he said, before I get the ball, I already know what I'm gonna do next. So basically, if there's a guy over there, he already looked at him. He gets the ball. He already knows he's going to pass it to him. Or there's a guy on the other side. He gets the ball. He's already passing it like first time. So he already knows what he was going to do, and he taught me that. And you can carry that on to
Everything.
everything. Oh, already know what you're going to do next. And even with goals in life, like people, they set a goal, and if they reach that goal, they don't have the next goal. It could be very bad for them because now, like I was just talking to an engineer
Mhm.
or just a gentleman. He was telling me about how he felt when he was going to school, he felt fulfilled because that's what he wanted to do is become that. And then when he reached that goal, he started working in the career. He was like, I lost everything. Like I felt like I had to drive it, and I didn't tell him that. But in my mind, I'm like, well, you didn't have the next goal. The part of the enjoyment was the process, was the goal,
Yes.
was reaching that goal. And then when you reached it, you didn't have the next one. So that is what hurt. That
Well,
is what hurt you.
I've always kind of felt similar in that um, I don't know if it's how we're raised or how I was raised, but you know, we're both come from competitive backgrounds, and so it's like you're always reaching, but sometimes you spend so much time reaching for the top of the ladder that you forget that the view you forget to enjoy the view along the rungs you're at. I think of like a cell phone tower or something like
Hmm.
you're climbing the ladder. The goal is up here, but you know, so we often just we're trying to get to the top, but we forget to like stop and pause and look around and go, you know, how do you know that, unless you've been there? It's like downtown Austin, the hospital when I worked in the ER. There's no windows or anything, and then sometimes a patient would leave something, and I remember one time like taking it up to their room or taking something up ahead of time. They were getting assigned to a room on like the ninth floor or something, and when I took something up there, you can out the window is like a perfect view of the football stadium.
Mm.
That if you were in that room, you could sit and watch UT play a game, and I was like, but you never know unless you take a moment and stop and look around. But our culture is like super obsessed with the top, the pinnacle, and we forget that the in between matters too, and that you know, even
Well,
though the top may be the goal,
yeah.
sometimes you might find that you actually enjoy it a couple of rungs down.
Yes, I've actually gotten to meet a lot of successful people. I agree with that. I've gotten to meet a lot of successful people when it comes to finances.
Mm-hmm.
So, are successful just also reaching their goals. That's what success really is, right? But they always say, believe it or not, the most enjoyable part is the process. And I'm like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. He said, yeah, that is the most enjoyable. If I could go back and do it all over, I'd do it again. Because he said that was, you can feel the adrenaline, you can feel the process. It's like, well, you're struggling, you don't have it yet. You're hungry. That's what he
Yeah.
calls it. You're hungry. Is you can see you're hungry the whole time, but then you reach the goal and it's like, well, I already did it. If you don't have the next one, because then if you have the next goal, same hunger still applies to that. Now you can use that same hunger you had here. Now you can use the same hunger for the next goal.
How do you take a Navy SEAL style and go like not only a second goal but a contingency plan? Like, when you were saying the guy he knew what he was going to do when he got the ball. Now he had multiple options, right? He probably had that plus a backup. Hey, I'm going to do this, but hey, if I plan to pass it here, but if somebody steps in between it, here's my secondary. It's like, I guess when they went to kill Bin Laden, they had contingencies for a helicopter crash, and a damn helicopter did crash.
Mm.
you know, so it's like when you're talking about that next goal, um, do you focus on specifically one thing, or do you even create like an alternative? Like, well, possibly this way, possibly this way? Um, or do you believe in kind of leaving a little bit of room? Have you ever heard the phrase that the path illuminates as you walk it? You don't really know. Sometimes you may not know the next right thing,
Yeah.
but it's not revealed to you until a certain point of the process.
Sure. No, yeah. I see what you're saying, but no, I have one goal. One goal. That I mean, let's just say a financial goal. Let's say
Mhm.
50,000. Oh, I want to make $50,000, right? That $50,000 is the goal. When I reach that 50, I'm getting close to reaching that. Okay, well, let's make it 100,000 now. So when you reach that 50,000, now you have something else to strive for. When it comes to soccer, it could have been, oh, I want to score 3 goals this week. If I score 3 goals this week, okay, what do I want to do next week? And then I have a next goal and the next goal, and it's always that one goal that I'm focusing on. I focus on that goal until I reach it. I already have the next one set when I'm getting close to it. But if you don't, even in finances, say it's 50,000, and then you're in 40,000, then you reach 50,000, now you have nothing to aim for. Now you're like, well, I've reached 50,000, now what? But well, that's just finances. But if we're talking another something else, like the gentleman who was just telling me he reached his career, and he's like, well, now I was stagnant and I didn't know what to do because I already did all. He said I was dialed in when I was in school. I was doing all these things. I was dialed in. Then I reached it. I'm like, well, I didn't have anything else. And I didn't even like it.
Mhm.
I felt unfulfilled. I was like, well, he could have when he reached that, he could have made it financial. He could have done this. He could have just had another goal already in mind when he reached his career. He just didn't have it. And that's just how people live. But I've met a lot of people who've told me, and mentors also say, always got to have a next goal, but focus on that goal. And then when you're getting closer to it, okay, what's the next one? And you reach it, and then you set the next one. That just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and there's a whole thing too with that. I think a lot of people they have an idea of like, yeah, for whatever reason that we're wired to want to be at the top,
Yes,
you
where
know?
humans are wired to grow.
Yeah,
And if you're not growing, it's a law. You're either going backwards or you're going forwards. You can never be stagnant. Nothing is ever stagnant.
an object of motion stays in motion
Yes.
unless it's acted on by an outside
Yes.
force.
Nothing is stagnant. Everything is either going backwards or it's going forwards.
Yeah, that one's a hard one because, man, like I I I I can see it and I can see the truth in it.
So let's take
But
let me give you an example.
what about is there ever a time where like it's just okay? Like they used to always tell like one of my doctors like growth, growth, growth. You need more, a bigger panel. He's like, I really can't. Like, I'm full every day to capacity. I'm the second highest producing doctor in the system. Like what does growth mean? Like, well, the people I supervise were adding patients too. Now I got to manage some of their stuff too and sign off on that. And it's like, within a corporation,
Yeah,
growth
no,
is always the
that's
thing.
different. Yeah, no, that's
But he's like, but it's like, why is growth always needed? Is there ever is there ever a sweet spot that you're just like, I'm okay and this is good?
that's up to the individual, right? Like they always say there's a season for sowing, there's a season for reaping, but people want to sow and reap at the same time. And they say, but they never learn to sow when it's time to sow and then reap when it's time to reap.
My 6 years in the ER was that way. So it was a position that you couldn't go up or you couldn't go sideways. It was just a position. And at the time, my angst was stirring and I had no idea what it meant. I knew I needed growth, I think, but I didn't know how or what. And my wife was like, well, why don't you apply to the master's program? And I was like, because I don't really like school and I don't want a
Mhm.
master's. And then, my mom's like, well, a couple of people, I go, Gabby says I should apply for my master's and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, well, some of the people I work with are going through this EHCA, Executive Healthcare Administration Program, where you do a week of intense school with your cohort, and then you go back to where we were from. We had people from Arkansas, Louisiana, wherever. And, you do your thing. And I ended up applying, getting in, but I always tell people it was like, it's not that I really wanted to be a healthcare manager.
Mm,
I said, I'd been doing something for 6 years. I needed growth. I knew I needed to grow. I just didn't know how it was going to come. But with pursuing that master's program, then I get a job. They come calling for management. And, because right now, especially for people your age and younger, whether or not people or college is a good investment is a big topic. And what I say is, for me, I go, I was in a graduate school program with a 1 year old, relocated my family from Austin to Tyler, took on a management position, went from doer to manager, where I had to learn a lot and a lot of 5 a.m. wake ups and homework all weekend and all kinds of stuff. It taught me how much I could handle and be successful because I graduated. And so, you know, it for me, it's not about what was in the book or the conversations. It's about, hey, this is showing you what you can do if you want, if you want
makes sense. Yeah.
you know.
Um, yeah. I mean, I believe that if you know what you're gonna do, and then you want to go to college to pursue that, I think it's great.
Yeah, I think like if you need science, STEM, and pharmacy and all that,
Yeah.
then yes, you need to
Yeah.
go to college. But like, you
When it
get a
comes,
philosophy degree or
no, maybe
whatever.
not.
Yeah.
When it comes to finances, though, I would say the people who make the most money today are either salesmen or business people. That's for sure. And this economy is definitely going to, because you can dictate your paycheck as a set employee somewhere in a corporation or somewhere. They set your wages, they set your salary, they set how much you can actually earn. As a business owner, you can set that for yourself. As an entrepreneur, you can
Yeah.
set that for as a salesman, you can set that for yourself. You can't do that salary. So you and your wife can probably make more money than you made when you were
Oh
working.
yeah. Yeah. Well, my thing was is like you know, I did an episode and I called it "What Box Are You In?" And you know, they try
Yeah.
to squeeze us into these little boxes
Yes.
of like uh whether it's a salary, like I know like, hey, like this is there's a top and there's a bottom. They give you the range when you apply, and I always say, like, I didn't go get my master's and wake up at 5 a.m. and spend weekends away studying in the library so I could be a career practice clinic manager. Like, no, mofo, I want to make director and VP and whatever, you know? And, you know, that didn't happen. It wasn't going to happen. And so it ended up, not working out that way. So therefore, um, yeah, it was just like I knew I could exceed that box. I didn't want to be put in a box. It's like I want something that's um, wide open, that you never know what's possible. You know that the sky kind of is the limit. But if you stay a salaried employee, then you know it it's all you'll ever be, kind of a thing. And
Hmm.
but I was always kind of taught too that that was
The way.
safe,
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah.
Like my
Yeah.
mother, who's been in healthcare for I'm 49. She's been in healthcare for 39 years, and even though she recently told me I never wanted you to do what I did for a living, she did say, you know, I was under the impression from her that she wanted that safety for me, even though she'd been at year 25 and got laid off
Mm.
at one point in time. It might have been in the 2008 time frame, which was like the housing bubble and all this stuff. The economy was bad, but she got laid off then and ended up getting her job back. And I remember always being like, why would you go back after they laid you off and this and that, the other? And then, of course, the pandemic hits, and supposedly I got a master's degree and I'm in a career field that That's the bare minimum standard. That's why you're getting a master's, is what we're told is, there's jobs out there that this is the basic requirement just to even be considered, right? And so I'm in one of those jobs. Well, it's all fine and dandy until the corporation's like, well, it's no longer a standard because we need to save money and it's cheaper to keep a person with no degree or a 2 year degree or a 4 year degree. Um, and, you know, and I think the pandemic taught us a lot in that I learned even having your master's, nothing is safe. So if nothing is safe, why not take the chance and do your own thing, you know? But so you go similarly, you're taking these chances. You play semi-pro, and then what was next after that? Because I guess this might be a episode called "Taking Chances," um, because you were told kind of, hey, but you believed in yourself enough, and then you started getting pointers and mentors. So where did you go from? So you get on semi-pro, and you said you ended up going. Did you go pro for a little bit and then got cut?
I played with them, I trained with them and stuff, and then I got cut after that. Didn't get
Okay.
to travel.
So, um, what did that feel like? If a lot of your identity is wrapped up in this
Yeah.
soccer player, and you know, through our conversation, the listeners have heard what's what we just talked about, believing and stuff. You'd been reading, so you kind of had some know. Me, I'm 49. I was 44, 45-ish when I got laid off. First time ever being laid off, fired, let go. So I felt like an epic failure in my identity because I always felt like caring for people, this is not what we do, it's who we are. And so I was crushed, and it crushed my identity, and I dealt with it poorly and drank a lot and all kinds of stuff. But that's my story, and people can go back and listen to it. How did it impact you when you got cut, and what influenced you to make your decisions to move forward?
Sure. So I was already, like you just mentioned, I was already reading, growing. So I was already asking questions like, is this the path I want to take? Is this what I want to do forever? This sport. So I was already falling in love with people as I was reading. So I already wanted to do something with people. So I ended up getting introduced to a business owner at a gym one night after I got cut. And I was already asking questions like, man, introduce me to something. I know if you have big plans, introduce me to something. Then I met this gentleman at the gym at 1 in the morning. I never go to the gym at 1 in the morning, but I went that night and he was in there and he actually made a comment because I was rolling out my leg. He said, "Man, that hurts, doesn't it?" I said, "Yeah, but I play soccer, so I have to roll out." I was still training because I wanted to go back. I was going to try again to go play, but then I took it as this might be the person who is going to introduce me to something. He mentioned business. He said, "I've been in business for X and X." He said he got my number and we became friends. And then we ended up getting a cup of coffee. We met, and then he introduced me to the concept of business. And that's when I was like, well, this might be the way that I get to help people. I was already asking those questions. This might be the way. So it was an easy, smooth transition. I never held hard grudges against the sport. It was never
Mm-hmm.
hard for me. It was like, well, this just felt smooth. This is what I need to do. Soccer died after that.
Where did your love for people come from?
The Bucks. When you
Hmm.
find out who people are, you want to find out more about them. You want to see how can I help. When I started becoming this version of me, which is the higher version of me,
Yeah,
I was like somebody else named Johnny. It's just
yeah.
if somebody's name is Johnny, listen. No, but somebody named Johnny, he's not living as the version of that God created Johnny to be. He's living as the Johnny he designed himself to be, which is the self beliefs he had, limited beliefs. And all he needs is someone who can unravel those limiting beliefs to help him become that higher version, which I've been able to help a few people now with that. And then that's just I believe that is my calling. That is my purpose. And through reading these books, I was able to do that because I did it for me. And now that
Right.
when you can do it for yourself, you can do it for anyone because now you know how it works. So then I started doing this with other folks, and then they started coming to me. And then that's when you start seeing they start asking you questions. because they see you're different. They're like, hey, can I ask you something? And they start saying, hey, can we go grab a cup of coffee? Hey, let's go. And then you do it out of love. And you show them what you've learned out of love. You don't do it because you're wanting to get something from it. You
Right.
do it because you love the person. And that's how I did it. But then that became an actual passion for me. Like then I need like I just wanted to keep doing it, and that's when I found that that was my purpose. That's my purpose here. I was put on here to do that. So that's how that was. It was a smooth transition. Soccer died after that for me, and not it didn't die, but it died for me.
Yeah.
The
Well, I
belief
was
of
I
it.
was I was thinking you had the team sports, which exposed you to um people one, but you said the books, because you said you're kind of always in the background a little bit. Um, but yeah, falling in love with people, and once you can see that, yeah, like Chase Hughes, Andrew Bustamante, like they always say, it's like, there's the version out here, and then, there's the version second level, and then there's the third level, like stuff that maybe even your wife doesn't know about you, that you've never told anyone. And then there's the version, like your wife knows. And then there's the version that I know, and the public sees.
But then you become that version of yourself everywhere.
Yes.
When you learn to live in that higher self, you're yourself everywhere.
Well, and you got to realize too, when other people present themselves, a lot of times
It's not really them.
you're seeing the outside
Yeah.
version, but like with Chase Hughes and through body language and
Chase Hughes is probably himself.
all that stuff was he goes, you're able to see that second and third layer, um, and therefore, like my thing is I have an ability to connect with people quickly. I wear this shirt when I go to concerts, and one day I'm walking by with a water, and it's like, hey, I love that shirt, man. And I'm like, hey, man, what's up? And I'm so and so, I'm so and so. I'm like, hey, I got a podcast and I talk about this. And he's like, well, I make handmade pipes. And, I used to work for like Verizon or whatever, lay in line. My wife was a nurse, and she's like, I can't, we're about to have a baby. I can't do this alone. And you're, um, you know, everybody around you is having heart attacks. You need to quit this job. And he started making pipes, and now he's a full-time pipe maker. And I interviewed him on my podcast, but it was like we had this little and then I interviewed him, and then of course I hung out with him at the next show I went to in Dallas. And so that's kind of my thing, is connecting, but connecting more to, I think, the truer person. um, not whatever this outside version is, or people who understand kind of that concept. Because I met a guy in the Woodlands Mall at the Van store who owns Lazy Days Speedway Coffee in
Yeah,
Ogden.
that's true. I believe that the higher version of people is just the inner. It's just the emotion. Not the emotion, but it's love. You can
Yeah,
feel it whenever they become their higher self. You can feel the love radiating from them. But if they're not really living in, because your higher self is just love. That's
yeah,
all it is. It's the greatest love. The love is the greatest emotion of all, right? So when you reach that higher self, you live in love. You can just feel it. You come across somebody's like that guy, something's different about
yeah.
that guy because he's living there. So you can just tell because he's living in that state.
Well, love is a universal language.
Yeah, I mean, think
But
about Jesus.
well, but you and I both, when I couldn't figure out where my anger came from, but that's why I always say violence is also a universal language. you know. And
Yeah,
so,
it's true.
yeah,
It's a choice.
but I prefer to err on the side of love.
Yeah.
I would rather lead with love, but, violence is,
So I love this. Energy, emotion is energy in motion. That's all it is. If everything is energy and it's matter, that means that your energy is, you're going to show it in your physical body is whatever you're feeling on the inside of your energy, your emotion. So emotion is literally just energy in motion because it's your energy on the inside and you show it through your motion. It's just what emotion means. So when someone's living in love, their emotion on their energy on the inside is radiating that on the outside. That's
I gotta get past my anger and upsettingness. I'm
it's okay. I
like how
mean,
I, but it's too like I grew up in a time where it's kind of like anger was the acceptable emotion for men to express. Vulnerability was not. Openness was not. Um,
books break you down. Books really tear your limiting beliefs, your belief system. It tears it all away. And man, there's been times when I'm reading, I'm just start crying, and it just takes you back. It's like whoa. It's like when you read a book that's actually helped a lot of people. They all mention it. Like, oh, read this
yeah,
book, read this book, read this book. You got to. I mean, I had to listen to that because then when I read it, it was like it would unravel a lot of stuff. I'm like,
yeah,
wow, that's how I found out that I was holding on something to my dad because he was
yeah,
never there emotionally. But I would never found that out if I didn't read that book. And I found out a whole bunch of different things from my childhood that I was carrying out today because I started reading. If I would have never read, I would never found that out. And that's how you start letting go of certain things and you start living in a different state or energy.
man. What excites me the most is to see somebody at your age coming across this kind of stuff and realizations because that means by the time you're my age, you won't be, you'll be in a far better place because, like it took me a long time to figure all this out. I
But
mean,
you're on the right track.
yeah, it's like shit, barely 90 days, 120 days ago was the first panic attack and realizing that, oh, 7-year-old Richard went into fight or flight that
Mm.
day and never really came out. And that's why you're always on alert, you know? And I had to even ask myself, was I really living or was I just merely avoiding death? From seeing somebody be run over at 7 years old. It's like I might have not even been fully living. I might have just been doing everything to avoid death, you know? And it's wild to think about that, but it's truthful, it's honest, but I also have to sit there and go, like you said, I'm a one of one and my path and journey is unique to me. Um and you start to kind of see how it unfolds, and it's interesting lately because I've met so many people and been meeting more people and more men. And I'm like, well, what is the meaning of all this? And more stuff around podcasting too, which was the original goal. But then somewhere within the podcasting genre, like there's other people that kind of lead lead you to this place or make believe like you can't just podcast, you need to have a business too and be a business owner or blah 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 something. I partially believe it to be true, but I think it needs to be enjoyable. Like, Joe Rogan owns comedy clubs and shit like that. That's fine. For me, I thought maybe coaching, life coaching, transformational coaching. I got some certs in that, but I never felt ready because I hadn't figured out my anger yet, you know? And as I continue on, but if they say the path illuminates as you walk it, the next step, maybe the next person you meet, it might be that one coffee. You might be one coffee away from your truth or whatever it is you're called to be, you know. I'm learning my gifts or learning what able to identify what they are, but now it's time to, apply them and figure
Yeah.
out how to apply them and by taking the experiences of like, being a living caregiver for Buck was the most meaningful thing to me. That human connection to another man and his story and his perspective. Um, you know, and I feel like a bridge too, partially to younger people like yourself. And, we have daughters who are 22 and 21 as well. And so I'm a before tech kind of Gen Xer, and, um, but I'm also articulate enough to go to explain, you know, um, between older people and younger people. And that was kind of one of the things I want to interview our 22-year-old daughter, but also, with you being here, being close to that age, you know, I know what I look at because I have a 12-year-old too. In 10, 15 years, it's like the people in your age group are going to be making the decisions about what happens to me and my wife, what, how much we're going to be taxed, and all that kind of stuff, and whatever else. And so it's like, you got cut. You said people and business. You know, what is important to people in your age group right now at 24 years of age? What in the world? What are y'all focused on? What is important? What do y'all desire? I mean, it
So
used to be home ownership. Like what I was taught was like home ownership, steady job, school, churning
yeah,
out little factory workers. Don't be independent. Don't be, it's a pipe dream to, podcasting wasn't even an availability when I was growing up. Like, what did you want to be when you grew up? I liked musician, but it was always like, I played guitar for a long time, but it was like, no, that's only a certain few can do that. Like, you got to be special and you got to move to LA. But we're now in this world where everything is everywhere and you don't have to be in New York or LA. It is possible. I'm 184, 185 episodes in. It's fucking possible. I'm doing it. I've been doing it over 2 years. July will be 3 years. So, you know, what 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 is the 24
yeah,
20s? What is important to your age group and what are y'all looking for? What do y'all want from the world and in the world?
yeah. Well, that's a very broad question because
Well,
24.
it's a concern to you. Like,
Yes, that's what I was gonna go. So
yeah.
there's a lot of 24-year-olds who don't really they're not pursuing anything.
Right.
They're just going
Those
with the
who
flow.
have a plan and who want to make an impact in the world.
Yeah. From what
What?
I've seen, I would say that they want to find their purpose here.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because in this day and age, social media has made it very hard for a lot of younger people. Are I wouldn't say my age, but even younger and
Yeah.
even older. But it doesn't matter where you are, and social media has very made it very easy for you to compare yourself.
People say I want to be. They say that young kids now, when you ask them what they want to be when they grow up, they say I want to be a YouTuber or an influencer.
Yeah,
Where when I was a kid, it was like,
yeah,
oh, I want to be a fighter pilot, a doctor, or a fireman, a law
sure.
enforcement officer.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there was always people who wanted to help people back then. I mean, I have six of them on my wall because I have a dream board and I have six of the people that I look up to. I have them all on my wall. And that's because they did the same thing that these people do today. Napoleon Hill being one of them. He's
Yeah.
he's right on there.
So you think finding purpose is a big?
I feel like what I've heard and what I've sat down with people today,
Mm-hmm.
they compare themselves a lot. They're trying to find their identity. They're trying to find out who they are. They're trying to know what am I here for? What am I supposed to do? And then they beat themselves very bad because it's like, well, these people over here are living like this, and I'm living like this. Well, it's not your job to compare yourself. That's why it's not. I don't think social media is something bad, but it can be if you use it
Yeah.
the wrong way,
Wait.
because you start comparing yourself.
You
And
gotta you gotta tailor your algorithm.
yes, I forgot who it was. I think it was Theodore Roosevelt. It was somebody. They said comparison is the thief of all joy
Yeah.
because you're not them and they're not you. You got to find out who you are, and that's what I feel like these people are. My generation or people today, they're trying to figure that out. There's people who do figure it out, and then they start their own something,
Mm-hmm.
or they do something for themselves, and then they start creating something because they find out who they are without comparison. But when you're in a state of competition, it drags you down. Because when you're competing against others, you're not in a creative state, you're in a competitive state.
Yeah.
You got to be in a creative state. Creative.
Because competitive is kind of fight or flight.
Yeah, you can't be if you're competitive, you're comparing.
Yeah.
I got to be better than them, but it's not about them, it's about you. And it's not about and for them it shouldn't be about you, it should be about them.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like I've seen that these gentlemen, the people that I've worked with, even personally, I've seen that they say the same thing. I just want to know what I'm going to do. What am I supposed, what do I need to do? And they always compare themselves. Most of the time, they compare themselves to what they've seen. Oh, I'm not there yet. Well, you can be if you want.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be, right? Just set a go. Stop
So
comparing
once you
yourself.
got cut, what did you start doing? Like
Business. I got it.
business?
Yeah, I got into direct sales.
Okay.
I was in that business for 2 years.
And
Yeah.
how was that for you?
It was good. I enjoyed it. I worked very hard at it. It just wasn't fulfilling.
Okay.
I didn't feel like I was doing what I'm talking about. I wasn't doing it there.
It was like a piece of it. You got like the people part of it,
Yes.
but that wasn't necessarily the product
Yeah, and
or
I'm very grateful
service.
for it. It taught me so much. I'm very grateful for it. It taught me a lot. If without that piece, I wouldn't have learned some of the things that I took away from that to what I'm doing today.
And what other I know we had talked offline that but you you said did you pursue any certificates or like any coaching stuff? Do you do anything like that or
Yes, I don't have any certificates,
Mhm.
but I work with individuals, yes, but I want to get that into a bigger scale. That's what my goal is, yes, work with individuals one on one, but I want to get into a bigger scale,
and you want to work with them helping them find their
helping
purpose?
them, helping them find themselves. If they have a goal, hey, we can help you with your goal. It's all the same. It just takes principles and it takes you following those principles the right way and you can reach it. But you have to follow the principles. If you don't, there's laws in place. So if you were to jump off of this building or of any building, you're gonna hit the ground and say that was gravity.
Yeah.
That's the law of gravity. Just like there's a law for everything, all these other principles I'm talking about. If you live by principles, you will get results. But if you don't live by principles, you're gonna get not results.
Yeah.
It's kind of like gravity. I mean, you try to jump off without a
Or the
parachute,
wrong results.
you're gonna, yeah. That's what I mean by nothing
Yeah.
stagnant. Is either going forwards or going backwards. Like if you were to stop making money today, you just say, okay, I'm done making money, no more income. Your income is not going to go forward; it's going to go backwards. Same thing with your life. Or if you stop eating healthy, and you just start eating unhealthy, it's not going to go forward; it's going to go backwards. Same
Like
thing with everything.
my business coach, he always says, a lot of people like when they run into the proverbial brick wall or failure, it's give up or that's not for me or
Yeah.
I knew it, where he kind of thinks like I've just got the wrong formula because he's very much a math engineer person. And his thing is I can take any goal and reverse engineer it
Mm.
to a set of steps that you need to be taken, daily
That's
actions
facts. Yeah, yeah,
within
it
the
is very true.
process,
Hmm.
because if you don't enjoy the process, your goals or the result of your goal is just the byproduct of the process in the daily steps.
Habits. We're
Yes,
all creatures of habits.
yes. And so, um, but also during that time, so you said direct sales, and you found that your passion is helping
Yeah.
people.
And I met my wife there too, so that
That's
was a blessing.
where I was going with that.
Yeah.
So you met your wife, and now, did you ever think you would get married? Did you ever want to be
I
married?
did. I did. And I wrote it down that I was going to be married by this age. And I wrote down that I was going to have a kid by this age. And it's all happening. Because when you write it down, it happens. And I didn't even think about it until I went back to that notebook. That's the crazy part. So I wrote it down when I was like 17, 18,
Mm-hmm.
that I was going to have a wife by this age and I was going to have a kid by that age. And I think I wrote 25 and 24. I'm married. I said by 25. I didn't say
Uh-huh.
when I'm 20. I said by 25. I got married and we have a kid on the way. So
Congrats.
thank you. But it all happens when you set a goal. Even if you write it, you forget about it. Your subconscious, I'm telling you, it just
Yeah,
works for you. You look back and it just doesn't work for you.
man. Well, thank praise the Lord that you're young. And you can handle
How old are
the
you?
I'm 49.
49. I think those are the best years,
Well,
according to Napoleon Hill.
you'll be good with no sleep is what I'm saying.
Oh,
Mine's
wow.
12. So we're past the non-sleeping age, but oh, let me tell you what, man. Being a father is like it's the greatest thing, the hardest thing, the like you're raising another, people, I don't know. Sometimes my wife and I will dispute, like, you shouldn't tell her this, you shouldn't tell her that. I'm like, she's a little human. Like, I think people discount what kids' intelligence levels, um, and especially now in a digital age where they're exposed to different things. Because, I mean, you know, I don't think prohibiting them from things is the way, but learning to teach them to use things responsibly, whether it's like social media, whatever, because they're going to do it at some point in time regardless. So educating them on how to is better. Because I can remember at 7 years old having a lunchbox, and some junior high kid carved Dick, wrote the word Dick on my Indiana Jones lunchbox, and I brought it home, and my mom's flipping out, and it's like, you know, whether it's a lunchbox on a school bus in 1983 or 2025 and now it's phones or whatever, you know, you can't protect them from everything. They're going to be exposed to it. So don't discount their intelligence and talk to them and explain to them. I talk to my daughter all the time. I go, I never want I want her to always know, like, I'll always be truthful with her, straight up with her, because I would rather my child come to me for advice as opposed to maybe one of their friends' parents. And we don't know what another friend's parents' belief and everything they've brought with them up into their life and what kind of programs are running in their background and their subconscious and what could slip out and influence our child. It's like, no, we're raising little humans, and I want to raise her, as long as they grow up to be good people and not assholes and succubus to society. You know, it doesn't matter whatever it is they want to be, whoever, I'll help, support, love them all the way. Just don't be entitled and don't be a bad human being. You know, those are my only
Mm,
rules. um, but yeah, that's going to be awesome. You're going to be, uh, I'm excited for you
thanks.
because, you seem like you're embracing it with, I don't think there is a right time. Is there a right time to get kicked in the balls? No. It's going to hurt.
Yeah.
You just got to kind of suck it up and deal with it, um, and make the best of it. But what are you looking at plan wise in terms of, are you wanting to do are you wanting to start a business or, become an entrepreneur? What's your future, like, kind of plans, goals, like big picture?
Yes. So for me, I've already started working individually with people. That's obviously with what we just mentioned. The bigger picture is making this a big organization, the bigger picture, like you just
Yeah,
mentioned, just making it a bigger picture. I wouldn't say, if you know, kind of, I mean, I don't know if I should.
put it out
I
there.
see, I have a big picture as to what we want to do with what we're doing.
Yeah,
If you know Tony Robbins,
yeah,
I'm not saying I want to get to that level because that's a huge level, but I do want to
yeah.
do something that he's kind of like he's doing, and whatever level
I like him. I like David
I do.
Bayer. Some of his messages.
Yeah. I want to do
Um,
something of that nature, not just individually. I want to do it on a grand scale. And also some of my mentors that I look up to
mhm.
do it what they're doing. They do the same thing. They do it at their way, and they do it, and they're very successful at it. And I want to do that myself, me and my wife.
Daniel Robbins en español. Yeah, Tony, you be the Spanish version of Tony Robbins.
Oh wow. No, no, no,
Yeah,
not Spanish.
yeah. No, Tony Mondragon. Yeah, we're not gonna walk across fire. We're gonna walk across chicharrones.
Oh man.
um, yeah. So helping people, that's the way. Now, any other goals like writing books
I do want
or
to write some books, yes,
yeah,
because of how influential they were to me, and I want to leave one out there.
yeah.
One of a gentleman that I sat down with, he's been running his business for 30 years. He said that also books, which is not why I want to write it, but he said that books can also be an expensive card, an expensive business card, because business cards they can get thrown away, but a book they're going to have it. It's going to be bigger, so it's going to be also like a business. Maybe some people do use it as business cards, but I want to write more a book to help people, uh,
Yeah.
again, find out and unravel who they are, and just a deeper book,
And
kind of like Tony Robbins,
yeah,
or just a whole bunch of other people who have done it.
and see,
Napoleon Hill.
for me, it's like podcasting is um, we're capturing history. You know, I always say like I've seen pictures of my great grandfather, but I know nothing about them. It's like when we trace back, it's like, you know, some of the Mexican family comes from Texas before it was probably even Texas, which was Mexico. And then we have, I think, one side of the family that they were actually from Spain, Spaniard Mexicans,
Mm.
but or Spaniards, they're not Spanish Mexicans, but seen pictures, but you know, never talked to them, never heard them, never knew what they were about. You know, this right here is there's a record of Daniel. And when you have children, should something happen to you or anything and their kids, this, they can come back and go, listen to this conversation and go, oh, that's how my family got into this, or that's why Grandpa Daniel is the way he is, or why he believes what he did, or what he believed at one time, or any of it. But it's, you know, it's kind of some legacy to it, and it's a place for not just listeners now with perspective, but for the future of, you know, my daughter, your daughter, and their kids, should civilization last that long. But
Yeah.
you know,
What's your goal? What's the goal for the podcast?
just to tell stories of people, to capture history, you know, like Buck. I would like to, you know, pursue becoming a death doula, because of what we did for Buck, and be with people, you know, so they're not alone.
Mm.
And of course, through conversation with their permission, if I couldn't get them live to speak, with their permission to tell their story
Makes
from their
sense.
conversations, and to be able to say, hey, this was this unique human being and it's all real, you know, like Buck, who, you know, got in the military between VE and VJ Day, between the World Wars. You know, Jimmy Carter being 2 classes ahead of him at the Naval Academy, the first African American at the Naval Academy in his class. You know, him being a naval architect and going to postgraduate school with Hyman Rickover, who's the founder of the Navy's nuclear power program. You know, his dad was a carpenter who built automobiles because automobiles were made of wood then, you know?
Very cool.
So, like that,
Yeah. There
learning that, transmitting that,
is there a big picture for the podcast?
it would be
Scaling?
yeah, me and my family in a Sprinter van traveling through all 50 states, maybe Canada, Mexico, Europe, and telling individuals stories for them, for the world, for their grandkids, um, you know, from regular people to, you know, if somebody famous wanted me to interview them and record their, you know, like the way I ask questions or like my energy or we got along, then yeah, but ultimately, if I could only podcast, I would be only a podcaster. And secondary would be nobody should die alone, to make sure nobody dies alone, to make sure whether it's me or people I employ, um, I would like to have it such that my whole entire family, all my daughters, everything can work as a family business, us together, and that we never have to be out in the corporate world listening to that riffraff, having rules dictated to us. Like, we take off, we work when we need to, as much as we want to, but we're not asking for other people's permissions for time off.
Makes
Or
sense. Yeah.
or like, our daughter gets sick. Who's got PTO? Who's called in this much? Who can afford to? It's like we don't have that problem, you know? It's like we can always be where we need to be because of that. So that's what I want. Freedom.
Yeah.
That's the goal. But freedom in conversation, perspective, and recording of history. Because there's so many people out there that don't get that opportunity to have their story heard or told. And maybe they've um, been through something very unique or maybe something very average. But it's also like an opportunity where if you were on your dying deathbed, I'd be like, what did you enjoy about the world? What did you not? What would you like to leave the world with? You know, like I know Buck was very much, you know, faith was important to him. Um, and his confidence in that. He wasn't a big fan of AI. And a lot of times I'd ask him questions. He'd be like, look at Revelations, read Revelations. And he'd always refer me back to the Bible for things. And he talks about, at some point, him always growing up a believer, but then at some point, like feeling instructed to really seek out. And then he ended up running into some organization called Voices of Elijah, where they had, you know, they take, I guess, some of the Bible and other teachings, and, I guess he believed that their stuff was more of the truth or more accurate, to the tune of, where he's donating $5,000 to $10,000 a month or 60 to $120,000 a year to this organization. So he believed in them somewhat. So yeah, um, but those stories, um, because I think we're all more alike than we are different. We all want to love and be loved, and our families to just be okay. Yet there's stuff going all around us that if you turn on the news or the internet that would kind of try to tell you otherwise. But, most of the people we're going to interact with today are generally, they want to make it through the day. They want to be healthier. They want to be whatever. Like every time I see somebody who's carrying extra weight, it hurts me because I know how unhappy and how much emotional pain I
Yeah.
had when I was 64 pounds heavier. And so if I can help them through words, uh, pointing them in the right direction, through making them see something a different way, changing their perspective. If having these conversations does that for people, um, then that's what I want to do. That's what I enjoy. I enjoy people and I enjoy their stories. I enjoy what drives them, what makes them tick, um, how they see life. What do they think our purpose is here on
That's
earth?
good. Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, all I can ever trace back to is love, you know, is, at the end of the day, regardless of what's on your wall, what's in your bank account, we all get the same ending. So, I don't know, some people like, I'm better than that. They look down upon other people, this, that, the other, but it's like, motherfucker, you get the same ending that I do. Don't act like you're better than me just because you live in this neighborhood or you drive this kind of car or you can eat at this kind of restaurant. We're created by the same creator, whoever it is, whatever you want to call it. Um, and yeah, you get the same fucking ending that I do. So I don't know what makes you think you're all that in a bag of chips, but let me tell you something. You're not. Maybe you bring something worthwhile to this world. Maybe it's words, maybe it's a product, maybe it's a service. But, whatever I choose to bring, it's out of love and not out of my desire to be rich, make money, take advantage of people. And I have to correct my money story because I've always thought that money was evil, crooked people had
Yeah,
money, this and that. However,
the belief system.
I've now learned no, money's not evil. People are evil.
People aren't even evil. It's just their belief system.
Well,
I'm saying
but my thing is like, hey, if I, you know
that's what
what?
I,
I know if I had
yeah,
money, I know what I would want to do with
yeah,
it.
that's what
I would
I'm,
want to get, you know what?
yeah,
If I
that's what
could
I
make a lot of
mean
money,
though.
I'd give it more.
Yeah, that's what I mean though as well. Like
Yeah,
even people with money, they're not, believe it or not, they
they're
might
not
not,
evil. It's just their beliefs.
and they're not even as happy as you think they are just because they have the car and the home.
Right.
It's not all about that.
No, it's not.
No,
And
it's their belief system.
I think understanding that and helping people realize that too, because I can guarantee you that some of my happiest times in life were some of my poorest times. You
Yep.
know? So
Yeah.
I whether it's they don't have to be correlated, but I think there's something there because I think in the Western culture in the US at least, it's very money driven, and that seems to be the goal for a lot of people. And no matter how much um, people debunk the myth that fame and money are what's that makes people happy or fulfilled,
Yeah.
people still pursue it,
Yeah.
even though
Well,
you've
money
had
is a
everybody at the top tell them it's not going to make you happier.
well, money is a resource. It's a great resource. It's a great resource. Without it, it makes the world go round. That's the
Yeah,
so yeah. There's people who will try to get it their own way, and they're doing it against the law. It won't work. But people who have succeeded financially, they worked with the law. That's why they were able to receive more. Believe it or not, the richest people are the biggest givers. If not, they wouldn't have it. Believe it or not, I've learned
you know
that
what
the
my mom told me one day, a long time ago. I can remember this. I was young, and I remember she was taking me to the doctor or something, and I saw people like in wheelchairs, tubes, all this, and I'm like, man, they are really like people. Some people really struggle to live in something, and I don't know where money came into it, but my mom was like, "Oh, I hate that you feel that way about this or that or money." But she goes, "I hope one day you have a lot of money so you could give it away like you want to, so it would change how you feel
yeah,
about it."
it's for sure. I mean, there was an individual who's very successful financially. He is very wealthy. He has a lot of money. We just talked about him a little bit beforehand, Tony Robbins.
Yeah,
And he was saying how when he was 17, he was broke. He didn't have anything, but he was already feeding two families. He's been able to feed millions of families. And he was crying when he was saying this. He was like, he said, people want more money, and they say, I will give when I have more money. He was crying. He said, bullshit. He said, you'll never give more if you don't give it now. So people want more, but they're not willing to give one. That's a law. What you give, you will receive.
yeah,
And that's the problem. These people who have learned to succeed or living that way, they've done something that most people don't do. They give. They're the biggest givers wherever they're giving. They give, whether they're tithing somewhere, whether they're
yeah.
giving to some
Our time.
organization.
I mean, my wife and I, a gentleman we helped care for, he didn't have anything to give us really, and but and we never asked for anything. We did it because he was my dad's friend and he needed us. I mean,
Yeah.
you know what?
Well, the law is whatever you give, you will give more back.
Yeah,
It's like if you plant
he
oranges,
sold a house and
if
gave us some money. He
sure,
even gave my daughter some money, like to
there
pick
you
up,
go.
So I was like, boom.
I'll say this though, if you plant apples, you won't get oranges. So if you want more money, you got to give more money. That's just the way it works. It's the law. If you want more love, you got to give more love. It's the way it works. If you want more anger, then give more anger. If you want more money, I'm saying if you want more money, you have to give money. That's why people who succeed at the highest level, they're the biggest givers. But people don't think that because they have a lot of money. They think, oh, these people are greedy. No, they're not. They're the biggest givers. I've met a lot of them. They became very close friends, my mentors of mine. I know how much they give. I have a mentor of mine who, if he removes himself out of 10 organizations, those organizations will die. They will no longer exist because he gives that much to them. But he's living off 10% of his assets.
So Buck, Laterno University and Mr. Laterno. Like I don't know his story in full, but Buck, he was a big influential because when Tyler was coming up and all that. But Buck's goal, he said that Mr. Laterno gave 90% and lived off his 10%. And that was always Buck's goal. And even near the end, when he would donate all this money, $120,000 or whatever, and I remember him telling me, and he's like, "Well, I tried." He's like, "But I never quite got down to living off just a 10% like Mr. Laterna."
Yeah.
But
It's
he,
just the way that's a giver.
and
They li
it's
they
crazy.
live in margins. See, most people live in budgets. They don't live in margins. Successful people live in margins. They give a certain percent. They save a certain percent. They invest a certain percent. That's margins, percentages. But people budget. They think that it's about amounts, but it's more about percentages. And then every time you get a piece of money, you live off the same percentages. And that's how successful people live. But they always have a percentage to give. And people who live off 10%, they give a lot of, a big margin of it is to give. But that's how you receive more. It's just the way the law works. There's laws in place already. They're not man-made. They're not
They're
man-made.
universe made.
There's something greater made. Yes, there's universal. And the people who know how to live by the laws will succeed. The people who don't will not succeed. They'll just die. A failure. In all regards, especially if you're not giving love. It always starts with love. Even if you give your money without love, if you're given just to receive, it has to be given because you want to give.
My problem is self love and self worth. I'm easy to um, I'm easy to care for others more so than myself. And I
Mm.
remember doing an exercise once of where I would, for probably 90 days, like telling myself, I love yourself in the mirror and, or, hey, yes, you have nice features when I was in my weight loss journey and all that. Um, and I could tell when I stopped doing it, my self worth, because that was always, my thing. The way I was raised was I was always like rewarded for making straight A's and this and that. Like everything was based on um, performance, whatever, achievement. Um, and so you can imagine failing. That's why it eroded, when I got laid off. It was huge. It's like, you're the biggest, ugh, till I learned, some of this. But I still, it is so much easier for me to give love than to give myself love.
And that's the biggest issue with people because
I
the
have to learn that.
person the person who you have to love first is yourself. If you don't love yourself, you can't love anyone.
That's what I have to learn. I got to learn to tap into that. And
And I didn't make that rule. That's
no,
just
and I
known.
know.
It's
And
universal.
so the other part of that too, though, is with that is um, learning to be true in that, be authentic, because I was always a person that, whether I was gifted more educationally than others, like I would
Makes
deflate
that.
around others so I don't make others feel bad about getting the opportunities that I had or whatever. Even though I might have worked for them, I would still deflate or shrink myself around other people because I didn't want them to feel bad that they didn't get what I got,
Yeah.
even though I worked for it and they didn't. It's crazy, but I mean, but I love that much, I guess, in a way of like a Jesus, like try to love I try to love everyone. It's about, like, yeah, and not to make myself seem better or higher than them, regardless of the situation or circumstance. but
Yeah.
that is really not being true
To
to
you, yeah,
me.
yeah, which is the most important person.
And
Because
that's what I have to learn.
because what you give, you're gonna if you're giving yourself, I mean, yeah, you can give love, but you have to love yourself first. That's just what they I've always read that too. Like, you have to love yourself first. If you can't love yourself, you never, because if you're hurting, you always hurt people. Hurt people, hurt
Hurt people.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everyone knows that, but it's like, well, you got to learn how to love first. You, when you love, you become this, you become love because you learn to love. But then that shows in your physique too. That shows in if you don't love yourself, you're gonna be able to see it in the physique. You're gonna be able to see it in their expressions. You're gonna be able
Yeah.
to see it in their which you've learned to love yourself. You can't say because you were 60 pounds heavier. Now
Yeah.
look at you. That's loving yourself. No, I love myself enough to stop doing that. I love myself enough to get to this level, right? And that's how you show you love yourself is discipline. Discipline, discipline, discipline. If you stop brushing your teeth, you show less love for yourself because you're not brushing your it's a
Yeah.
part of your and your breath stinks, right? So it's just a funny example, but it's true. It's just discipline. That's how you show love for yourself is you discipline yourself.
Chase Hughes is always a good one where
There we go.
he goes, future self. He goes, what would future self, what, he goes in, whether it's discipline or something, but he called, not necessarily discipline, but he says, what would future Richard appreciate? He goes, what he likes to do is during the winter or the summertime, he'll like if he has an extra $100 bill or something, he'll put it in his winter coat. Or like let's say when summer comes, I put $100 bill in there, and then he goes, and then I forget about it. He goes, and then winter comes along, and I put on my coat for the first time, and it's like, oh,
$100 bill.
$100 bills in there. He's like, future Chase appreciated that. And so he's kind of like when you think about exercise, or like I'm telling my wife, like she's starting her journey. And I go, when you think about decisions, you go, what's the best decision for future Richard? You know?
Mm,
And he talks about building it that way. Um, kind of
I
love
like
and
that.
care for yourself.
Yeah, I like that.
But yeah, he
Okay.
he's a he's a
You must look up to him. You've mentioned him a lot.
I his material is
That's good.
very it's been eye opening for me and helped me a lot. And he's,
I think that's
so
it's a great way to end it.
so
No,
yeah.
I gotta use the rest.
Well, like I always say, go out and be the person that you would want to meet. And I'm thankful that we were able to meet.
Absolutely.
So
There's a reason for it, whatever. All right.
yes, I agree.
Whatever it was.
All right. Pieces. There we go.